That's cool. I want to be that Arnold City. You think he got yeah. Good stuff. But you know, like, two really good. Okay. Like a chat.
I think it should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Josh Floyd is like this week. Like she's maybe he's just something to
John was trying to get it. Yeah.
Well, I want to welcome everybody to Town Hall. I know we're going to get started with our regular business meeting at 6:30, but we do special presentations, and today is really a very, very special day. As you can see, a lot of our law enforcement professionals are here today and want to welcome you guys. And we have two other proclamations that we want to give out. So we're going to start off with the first one. And this one's a little close to me. I'm a social worker. I've been in social services for many, many years, and it's always great to honor fellow social workers. So I want to ask Miss Anna Knapp to please come on up. And I'm going to allow Councilman Ray Garcia to read
Great.
the proclamation.
All right. So.
Yeah.
So whereas it is with great pleasure and admiration that we recognize the remarkable achievements and dedicated service of Miss Anna Knapp, a compassionate and timeless social worker who has made an indelible impact on the lives of countless children and families in Miami-Dade County. And whereas Miss Knapp embarked on the journey as a social worker with unwavering determination, graduating with a bachelor's degree in social work in 1998 and a master's in social work in 2003, which laid the foundation for her extraordinary career. And whereas Ms. Anna Knapp's exceptional abilities and dedication led to her be hired by the Miami-Dade County Miami-Dade County Schools District in February 2013, where she embarked on a path of service that would positively impact the lives of countless children and youth. And whereas in 2015, Ms. Anna Knapp joined Project Upstart, an invaluable program under the Department of Title I administration dedicated to supporting the educational needs of children and youth living in unsustainable housing in Miami-Dade County. And whereas Ms. Anna Knapp's expertise and passion made her an invaluable asset to Project Upstart, where she took on the vital role of serving as the district outreach liaison responsible for coordinating services and providing support to over 104 schools, including both public and charter schools in the North region. And whereas in this position, she has enacted with the pivotal task of identifying, enrolling, and ensuring the attendance of 10,339 students in unstable housing, empowering them with the resource and support necessary for their successful academic achievement. And now, therefore, I, Manny Sid, virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Miami Lakes, and on behalf of the town council and the 33,000 Miami Lakes residents, do hereby proclaim June 7th, 2023 as Anna Knapp Day. Congratulations. Can you say a few words?
They tricked me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I do this job from the bottom of my heart. I work with a lot of kids, unfortunately, that have nowhere to go. And it's just my privilege to help them out, to make sure that they have, a name, no matter what they're going through. So we're here to support our kids, no matter what they're going through. So I'm sorry, I don't have anything planned because I had no idea, but thank you, everyone. Thank you for the social workers in the North region. Thank you, Dalen, for, being supportive. I don't know what else to say, but thank you. I appreciate it. And, anything that I could do to help. I've been a social worker for over 20 years. And this is my passion, to work with kids and make sure that they're taken care of no matter what situation they're going through. If they don't have a home to go to, if they don't have a place to go to, we're here to help them out, to make sure they have the right to an education like any other student. Thank you. Sorry.
Hey, wanna take a picture?
And if you can come on up here for a couple of pictures. The first thing that I was told before giving that to you, she knew nothing. So it was, I'm glad that it was a surprise. So, all right, you're welcome. Great. And the next proclamation is one that's bittersweet for our community. I'm going to ask Councilman Josh Dieguez to present the next proclamation.
Thank you. And it would be my honor to do this for not only our major, but a friend, Mr. Javier Ruiz. So come on up. Councilman Collazo is going to do me the favor of holding this for me while I read it. As you know, these things can run a little long. But let's begin. Whereas between November 13th, 2003 and July 30th, 2006, Major Javier Ruiz served as a uniformed patrol sergeant and a general investigations unit sergeant for the town of Miami Lakes. He directed and oversaw criminal investigations using his extensive knowledge, crime fighting experience, training, and investigative knowledge. And whereas on September 4th, 2017, he was promoted to the rank of police major for the town of Miami Lakes and tasked with coordinating operations of uniformed patrol and investigative staff, implementing directed policies and procedures, and ensuring that departmental and town of Miami Lakes goals and objectives are achieved. And whereas as town commander, he developed multiple traffic initiatives and details to identify traffic concerns and improve the flow of traffic on main streets. And whereas his proposal and implementation of license plate reader technology has had a direct impact on crime reduction in Miami Lakes, creating a proactive and reactive system designed to detect and identify criminal offenders. And whereas he developed operational plans for providing security and safety at numerous testing sites and food distribution points during the COVID pandemic. And whereas during his tenure as town commander, he devised and implemented numerous operational plans to combat crime within the town's boundaries, leading to a continuous decline in crime within the town and an overall decline in targeted crimes between 2018 and 2022. And lastly, whereas he has exemplified the core values of the Miami-Dade Police Department, integrity, respect, service, and fairness throughout his career. And now, therefore, I, Manny Sid, by virtue of the authority invested in me as the mayor of the town of Miami Lakes and on behalf of the town council and 33,000 Miami Lakers, do hereby proclaim June 6, 2023 as Major Javier Ruiz Day. Congratulations, Major. I know how much you love public speaking. Why don't you share a few thoughts with us?
This is unbelievable, a great honor. And I just want to say it is bittersweet because this has been like my second home. I did a lot of growing up in Miami Lakes, swimming in the lake off of Seagrape Terrace, and then my first job, was in this area, and my second job was in this area, and my third job was a police officer in this area. And I started on the road here, and as years have progressed, to come back to Miami Lakes, to my home in Miami Lakes for so many years was just a dream come true for me. And hearing all this, it's interesting because I couldn't do it without support. It was actually all this was very easy because of all the support I got, mainly the support from the officers that work with me day in and day out. All these initiatives were done by you guys and spearheaded or assisted by Lieutenant Gonzalez as well, who shares in all these accolades as well. Thank you guys for everything that you've always done for me and done for the people in this city. This is really more your doing than mine. And I've always said that everybody in this town is really a member of my police department. You may not get a paycheck from the police department, and you may not, have arrest powers. Don't go out there and do that yet. But you're all a member of my police department, and this is really a success for you as well. It's the town council has been overwhelmingly supportive throughout all these years, whereas other municipalities and law enforcement can say that some of their council members get in the way or sometimes hinder their efforts. We get full support here, and this has been, it's an example of, you know, the support that you guys have given us day in and day out. The town staff has been supportive as well. I've learned so much. I've learned that problem solving goes with just everybody, with public works, with parks, with transit, with building. I mean, we sit down and we problem solve on a daily basis. I've had the opportunity to work for two outstanding town managers. I'm very grateful to Alex Ray for giving me the opportunity to be the town major. And I'm very grateful to Ed Peterman for all the support you've given me. I know that I could have called you at 3 a.m. if I wanted to and said, one of my officers needs water on a traffic post, and you would have gone and provided them water, coffee, tea, whatever. You were always there for us. Finally, in all these things of support, I'm actually very blessed to have my family here, my wife Iris, my kids Kai and Lena, my mother and my second mother, my aunt, and my uncle Juan, who have been my support at home. And that's really what's helped me out as well. So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you all. God bless. Love you all. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Before we take some parting pictures, I do want to give you some personal comments because throughout my tenure here, you have been the person that I've had the opportunity to serve with the most. And I can't tell you how your leadership style brings a calming presence. And when you talk about somebody who's there, available to us as a council, available to the constituents for whatever they need, you have never batted a blinked eye. So I know the credit goes to all the men that serve with you as well. But I just wanted to speak to your character and the way that you've comported yourself with us as council members. And we have been blessed to have you. Thank you so much, Major Ruiz. Thank you. After, yeah.
Not so fast.
We didn't get the memo right now. Now, there is something special. If you gentlemen can stay right there where you're at, I'm going to ask Lieutenant Gonzalez to grab something, and I'm going to hand him the mic because he has a special presentation as well.
Thank you. Even though today is the day that we're going to appreciate Major Ruiz for everything that he's done, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Today, which is June 6th, about 5 years ago, I recall sitting next to Major Ruiz. Major Ruiz unexpectedly turns to me and says, "Hey, would you be interested in coming to the town as a lieutenant?" And I said, wow, I was caught off guard, but I was flattered to be asked. And I said, let me call my wife and I'll get back to you. Actually, that was a little bit of a stall tactic because I had to make some phone calls because I never worked with Major Ruiz in the past, ever. We never worked any assignments together. I said, let me do my homework and see what kind of boss he would be. And let me tell you, every person that I called had nothing but great things to say about Major Ruiz. I said, well, I'll give it a shot. You know, it'll be a great opportunity for me and to work with Major Ruiz. And let me tell you, there's no lying in what they told me. 5 years later, I can honestly say he's been the best boss that I've ever worked for in this department in my 29 years of law enforcement. So I'm very proud to have had him as my boss. Big shoes to fill. Everybody here is, I mean, the morale has been awesome and everybody here is so happy, and we're going to be sad to see you go. So with that said, on behalf of your officers, supervisors, in recognition and appreciation of dedication and professionalism and loyal service to the town of Miami Lakes from 2017 to 2023, we'd like to appreciate you and present you with this award.
All right, thank you so much. That concludes our special presentations. We'll get started promptly at 6:30 with the town's agenda.
I know my son liked to play at the Hialeah Gardens, the high school field. Because I had big, it was big.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to ask everybody, please take your seats. It's 6:30 and we do want to start promptly. So thank you and welcome to Town Hall. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Councilmember Collazo,
Present.
Councilmember Dieguez,
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Ruano,
Present.
Councilmember Fernandez, Vice Mayor Alvarez, and Mayor Sid are absent. You have quorum.
Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and start off with a prayer. If I can ask Hector Abad to come on up and lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight asking you for your guidance, for your wisdom and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bonds of our community. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as our town council makes decisions that may affect the residents of the town of Miami Lakes. And continue to remind us all that what we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. If you can please remain standing. Joshua Dieguez, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
For those of you joining us in chambers and those watching from home, please join me by putting your hands over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. You may all be seated. On to the order of business. Any addition, deferrals, deletions from the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to move item 14A to right after public comments.
Thank you so much. 14A is moved to right after public comments. I would also like to move up 12B right after consent. That's the quasi judicial item, 12B right after consent. That way we can get all our county people out of here. You're welcome.
I'll move the item to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much. So it's kind of funny. Public comments is really a non-issue ever, but we were alerted by Zoom that we might have some people trying to be comedians tonight. So please bear with us if we have any of that, any of those antics going on. And for those individuals that want to share and partake in that, I guess this is your warning that you will be dumped as seemed appropriate. So thank you so much for your patience with that. But on to public comments, Madam Clerk.
All comments or questions from the attending public shall be directed to the mayor in a courteous tone. To ensure the orderly conduct and efficiency of the meeting, public comments shall be limited to 3 minutes maximum per person. If you're here for public comments, please state your name and address for the record. Come to the podium and you have 3 minutes.
Any public comments from the audience? Yes, please come on up, Ms. Lucis.
Hello? Okay. Good evening. Claudia Lucis, 8220 Menteith Terrace. Let me start off with thanking Jeremy Badgedon for contacting me regarding the sinks over at Veterans Park. I understand the issue has been addressed. I'm here to talk to you today about the NSDs, I think is what they're called now. There used to be STDs, but now they're NSDs. Section 1, in particular, the issue of the speed bumps. They're not necessary. The problem is, lo and behold, that the equipment doesn't work properly. Yesterday, as I was driving through the guard gate, even though I swiped my card, I had the green pretty lights, it went up, and as I was going through, it came down. The problem is not speeding. The problem is the equipment itself. Very, very rarely does it function properly. So we replaced an old system that worked fine with a new updated system that has a bunch of issues. So once again, I think that if you are going to impose speed bumps on the residents of that particular area, the residents should have a say. That decision should not be for 7 people alone. There are over 800 residents there. And I can guarantee you that speeding through those gates are not the problem. The problem is the equipment itself. Let me go on to my next issue. Okay. So something that I have noticed past couple of months is there seems to be an increase here in green initiatives. Sometimes I have a hard time distinguishing my local government from my federal government, but I think that we should focus on what's happening here within our town. So let me call your attention to these 2 pictures. If you were to walk this town, you would see this. PVC pipes that have been exposed. This one for a number of years at this point, if I'm correct, Councilwoman Arano, because when we walk, we've seen this now for 3 years. At first I thought, hey, COVID, people aren't working. You can catch COVID from this. So, but this has now been out there for a long time. This is not an example of growing beautifully. Why is this still like this? PVC pipe number 2. Okay. This is something else that's out there. So before we start dealing with other initiatives, solar panels and whatnots, how about we take care of just what is out there to begin with? Because this is not what we Miami Lakes residents expect. No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucis. Anybody else in the audience wishing to speak? Yes, please come on up.
Maria Gonzalez, 1755 West 72nd Street, Hialeah, Florida, 33014. I'm here to talk about 14A. Can we say it? Okay, it's a surprise. Fred, we're not here for Matthew, we're here for you. And you're gonna know why in a minute. Okay, to put what Fred means to me in 3 minutes is going to be hard. For me to say anything in 3 minutes, it's hard, but here I go. I'm here as a daughter who lost her father 4 years ago, and because of Fred's generosity, I get to see his face on a banner every time I want to, both here and Hialeah because of his generosity. I'm also here as a board member of the Veteran Affairs Board in our sister city of Hialeah, where he also paid for the Hialeah veteran banners. When we didn't find anyone in time to pay for them, he said, I'll do it without any hesitation. So we have banners over there too because of him. I'm also here as a member of the Miami Lakes Chamber of Commerce. He's an example of everything one should aspire to be. He's a family man. He's smart, hardworking, team player. He always listens to all our ideas and suggestions. Ooh, I'm good. No matter who, he treats us all the same. He's so humble, giving, and wise, and he does it all with an infectious smile. There's no one more deserving of this honor, and I'm thankful to Councilwoman Arano for making this possible, and I ask all members to vote yes. I'm honored and blessed to consider Fred a friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Please refrain from any clapping. I know this is a joyous occasion, but right now we want to remain in the spirit of public comments. Anybody else in the audience? Please come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm also here for Fred. Hey, Fred. My name is Larry Borman. I'm Vice Commander of the American Legion chapter here in Miami Lakes, Post 144. I'm here this evening in support of Fred. Fred also serves with the American Legion. He acts as Senior Vice Commander. Fred is one of the most honorable men I've known in my entire life. Fred is always there to lend a helping hand or contribute without ever having to be called upon to do so. His most recent contributions include the military banners that we so proudly display on Miami Lakes Drive. You ever see them out there? They're beautiful. They represent the men and women of our town that served in the military. And today being a special day, I'm sure most of you are aware, June 6th, today's D-Day. Today's the day that our troops invaded France. We landed in Normandy. We lost over 4,400 troops that day. And these flags, these that we put out, that Fred sponsors, in a way honors their men, the men that have done that in the past. And we want to continue to do that thanks to Fred. He also sponsors the military float that's used in our annual Veterans Day Parade. We were discussing how nice it would be to have a float, something that many of our veterans that are too old to walk or for whatever reason, they're in wheelchairs, and they would get a chance to actually see the parade and see the people come out and honor them. And when we mentioned that we wanted to put a float up, Fred was in the first one. That's a great idea. He didn't hesitate. He said, I'll sponsor that. And he did. And we had the float last year. And I thought it was wonderful. Other things that Fred does, I could go on and on all day. I just want to mention a few of them from the military. Fred also sponsors the cars that we use in the Veterans Day Parade. You know, last year, there was a problem in the automobile industry. There was a shortage of cars. Fred said, I just don't have the inventory to give you guys the cars this year. He said, but don't worry, I've got an idea. This was great. So Fred called upon the Jeep Club, the local Jeep Club here in the area. I made him a deal. He said, tell you what, you guys bring your Jeeps out and I'll give you discounts on all the parts and service in my dealership. And they did. And you guys rode around in those Jeeps. I thought it was pretty cool. Thanks again, Fred. Yeah. Fred also does other things like, example, there's a lot of veterans, that older guys, especially, that don't have much income and they really can't afford their dues. Fred doesn't say anything. He pays their dues. So they remain active members. I could go on and on about Fred all day. Fred's there for the veterans and the less fortunate, involved in addition with the fortunate. It's my honor to be here in support of Fred. And it's even a greater honor to be his friend.
Thank you so much. Any additional public comments? Yes, please come on up.
Thank you, council members and Mr. Manager. I was in downtown. I almost didn't make it today, but I did not, I made sure that I got here. And I did that because Fred is an amazing human being, an amazing philanthropist, and an amazing father, amazing grandfather, and I'll tell you, an amazing resident of this community. I've known Fred for quite some time, and his heart really is in Northwest State, especially when it comes to veterans. We have made, through my legislative career, I've always tried to put veterans first. And Fred has not only put veterans first, he's put his money where his mouth is, in making sure that he supports veteran organizations and not only our veterans parades, but make sure that veterans are never forgotten. And just with its simple banners that you sponsor to make sure that all of our veterans in our town are recognized. Fred, that goes a long way, not for you, but for the family members that are always remembered that their loved ones sacrificed it all to make sure that all of us can be up here legislating and protecting the freedoms that they so much protected. So Fred, on behalf of not only Miami Lakes, but say Hialeah, but all of those that have given so much to this country, we thank you very much for being the man that you are, for being a friend that you are, and a family man that you are, and also being the friend of this whole community. So thank you very much, Fred. And by the way, what they're doing, hopefully, we're naming a road after you. Yes, that's what it is. I think everyone forgot to say that, but that's what the resolution is. So thank you, Fred, and commission council members. Thank you so much for giving this individual this great honor. God bless you. And I hope you'll vote for it. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Good evening. I'm gonna be very brief. All I can say is Fred is a person that whenever you need anything, you go see him and he doesn't know to say no. He always says, yes, I'll do it. I'll help you, Pedro. Thank you. Thank you, Fred. God bless you.
Just a reminder, whenever you come up to the podium, you have to identify yourself. Obviously, the two gentlemen who just spoke are two of the most well-known people in our town, Senator Garcia and Pedro Fiallo. So just state your name and your address when you come up to the podium.
Thank you so much. Any additional public comments? From the
Yes,
audience?
via Zoom.
Yeah, I see 4 participants via Zoom. If you wish to speak, just unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Brandon Diaz, 6600 Main Street, Miami Lakes, Florida. I am a member of the Miami Lakes Chamber Young Professionals Committee, and I wanted to speak in support of naming a street after a gentleman that's gone above and beyond for his country, for his town, and for his state. Fred DeSenra is not only just a patriot in serving our nation, but he's been serving our town for many, many years, and he means dearly to me. As many of you know, it's the mayor, council members, town manager, and those members in the audience. I was a staffer for the town for many years. And I'll never forget the words of Fred DeSenra when I left this town. He goes, sir, you're leaving the town, but you're not leaving the chamber. You're making sure you're staying with me here at the chamber and staying involved. And for Fred to say that to me meant the world to me, because he's a great community leader. Not only just has he sponsored numerous events over the years, but he's a true leader. And those words that Fred gave to me that day will last a lifetime, because he saw that he truly, truly, truly meant it. And he goes above and beyond for everybody he makes a contact with. Matthew, Tico, Fred have really changed what the Miami Lakes Chamber is, and has taken the chamber to whole new heights. And our town should be grateful for the leadership of Fred DeSenra for making that possible. So with that being said, I just want to end it with, Fred, thank you for your service to our country and to our town. And this town, this is the least our town can do for you. So I hope the mayor and the council members all vote in favor of this item. And thank you, Council Member Morano, for sponsoring and filing this item. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before we take other public comments online, I saw somebody else in the audience here that wanted to come back up. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Council. Matthew Casamajod, 7241 West Troon Circle, Miami Lakes. I'm not going to restate what's already been said a million times. Yes, he's incredible. He's a veteran. He's done so much for the town in terms of the business community, in terms of the veteran community. All that goes without saying. But one thing that I really want to drive home is that what Fred, my grandpa, what he does for this town and what he does for me and for everybody, it goes beyond just, being a veteran, being involved in the town, being a businessman, sponsoring everything. It goes beyond all that. It's, it's the values that he shows this town, that he's shown me since I've been, a baby and growing up. It's, those values of teamwork, of working together, of, being a strong leader, and leading through others, letting the community, letting the team be the ones that really drive the force. And you're just kind of there making sure everybody's doing everything right. So that's it. I'm not really going to go anything too crazy with it, but it's definitely something that I think you guys should vote yes for, just so future generations and everybody down the line can remember when they're driving down that street, what it means, what it's there for, and what it represents. So thanks.
Thank you so much. Anybody in the chambers, any additional comments from the chamber? We'll go back to remote public comments. Madam Clerk.
If there's anybody via Zoom.
Hope Reynolds.
Go ahead.
Mary. Okay, thank you. Before you start to clock me, is it possible for me to speak during ordinance first reading on budgetary item on section 1 special taxing district?
Yes, you can read at that time that the item is being heard. Do you prefer to wait till that
Thank
time?
you very much. I will wait until that time, but please vote yes for Fred DeSenra. Thank you.
Okay, noted. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, any additional remote public comments?
I see 2 more participants online, but they're not unmuting themselves. If they wish to speak, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes. I think that's all.
Okay, hearing no other public comments, we'll go ahead and close public comments at this time. Thank you so much. On to the next item on the agenda, item 14A, which happens to be the renaming of the street. Councilwoman Morano.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Collazo. Thank you to everyone that is here this evening to honor a very, very special man. The item that we are presenting today, Mr. Senra, is an item in your honor to name 59th Avenue Fred Senra Way. So everyone that has spoken tonight has highlighted so many aspects of your life. You are an amazing human being, aside from being an amazing Miami Laker. The true Cuban immigrant story, someone who arrived in this country and has bettered himself, bettered his community. To me, there is no greater evidence of that than to see your family, individuals that raise beautiful families that are successful and are together and are always working as one. That is the true meaning of a wonderful human being. So Fred, thank you for what you do for our community. Thank you for what you do for our neighboring municipalities, the northwestern region of our county as a whole. Thank you for what you do for veterans. Thank you for making the ultimate sacrifice to defend our freedoms and allow us the opportunities to sit here and honor you today. The fact that it is June 6th and it is D-Day is just added sprinkle of interesting to today. It is a day that deserves honor, and today that honor is yours. Thank you so much. So I move, if my colleagues will allow me, I move to rename 59th Avenue or co-designate 59th Avenue, which is right by where you conduct business in our municipality, Fred Senra Way.
Second.
Also, Madam Clerk, I'd like to be reflected as a co-sponsor on this item.
Noted.
As
would I, Madam Clerk. And before we move on, because everyone that participated in this, and especially the person that brought this to my attention, deserves all the recognition in the world. She's hiding behind Senator Garcia. But Millie Gonzalez is the brains behind this operation, and she is the person that brought this to my attention. And all too often, we forget those that are still with us, those that are living within our community, and we tend to name streets upon people's passings, and they don't get to enjoy that moment. And so, thank you, Millie, so much for bringing this to my attention. It is my honor to present this item today.
Yeah, and Madam Clerk, I think the sentiment, I heard a couple other people saying, please add as well. I think the sentiment shared among the council members here would be that this would be beautiful if we can all be added as co-sponsors. I don't know how we would do that without the mayor and vice mayor, but I'm sure they would not object to all being recognized and being part of this moment. So thank you.
Council member, just for clarity's sake, I suspect you wanted to start on the north end at 167th. How far south were you proposing?
I would like to extend it as far south as 59th Avenue goes and as far south as it will go in the future, hopefully.
To Miami Lakes Drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to take the opportunity just to raise a very generic statement about Fred, and it's really the impact that he's made on this community. And I think somebody used the word indelible earlier today in referencing. Saturday morning, most of us like to take our time off. This man was on the Optimist Field having a fundraiser for the Optimist Park. That's just a day in his life. It's just something that he does. He's programmed that way. He's built that way. And that's why we're here honoring you, Fred, because you're built different. You're not a normal human being. Your charity, your charisma, the way that you give back to others is something that's incredible. And we're just honored to have you around us. So thank you so much for everything that you bring to this community. Any further remarks from anybody?
Just quickly.
Sure.
If you don't mind. Fred, I think your grandson said it best. I mean, everything everybody said is true, but you're a dad, you're a father, and you're an abuelo, and you're a gentleman, sir, and you deserve this honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Do you want to take a quick recess to take a photo or anything, Fred, or do you want to come up and say some remarks?
First of all, I came here today to honor my grandson because he was getting some kind of an award from Senator Rene Garcia. So little did I know that I mean, I thought the streets would be named after people that had passed, you know, a while back and then whatever. But, you know, it is an honor. I have to say though, that, you hear the contributions, and yes, I'm the face man, but I cannot go without saying that without the my partners, the Ali and Faisal Ahmed, who own the majority of the auto mall and many other dealerships in the country, they always said yes. Every time that I said, this is what I want to do, whatever, this we need to do this, do it. Anything they've never said, and they have been actually invested a lot of money and will continue to invest a lot of money in this town. And Susana knows that very, very well. But it is an honor. I never expected then, to any of this to happen. I guess that sorry, get emotional. I love this town. Love this town. I never in my mind had a thought of even ever running for any political position, because I'm not a politician. Sometimes I'm a little blunt and saying things, and sometimes people don't may not like it at the moment, but that's the way I am as well. When I see something that is not proper, that is not right. But I love this town, and I always want the best for all of us. I love the way that this council operates. I think you guys have done a great job. There is some, not old, but I'm not going to call you old, Raul, but you've been here a little while. And but the rest of you have been here just a few years, and we've I have seen this town going up and down and up again and whatever, but I think the spirit of the town is is alive. I think that I've talked to Ray Garcia the other day in one of the Blue Ribbon ceremonies that I love to see new businesses opening up in the area, because that is the future of our town. I love to see young families walking around this area here and some of the other areas in our town, because that is the future of our town. We were getting old. The town was getting old, the same way the chamber was getting old, and we had to renew it. We had to rejuvenate it. And so I am honored. I am honored to be here. I'm stunned to have learned this honor that you guys are giving me, and hopefully I will never disappoint you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Councilman, if I may take a moment of personal privilege just to note that, Fred, you are correct that normally these things are reserved for those who have left us. And I just wanted to say, I promise you, we're not rushing you. So take your time. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Dieguez, for the moment of levity. We want him here forever, right? So thank you. On to appointments. There are no appointments. So next, our committee reports.
Can we have a 2-minute recess to take a picture with Fred?
Sure. Do you want to take a picture, Fred?
Yep.
Okay, sure. Let's recess for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, there's wires under it. Yeah, yeah, get in there, everybody, just get in there, get in there. Get in there. I had this thing, I hit it and it clicked over here and the picture came out. The first picture frame was dark. I'm gonna have to fix them one. But yeah, you came out. Look, come on, perfect. I know. It's always there. Yeah.
Take a few more.
All right, thank you. If everyone can make their way back to the chamber, please. Back to the dais. Madam Clerk, we're calling the meeting back to order. If you can do roll call. Madam Clerk, roll call. I broke the thing in half already. Roll call, yes.
Councilmember Collazo,
Present.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia,
Present.
Councilmember Ruano,
Present.
Vice Mayor Alvarez, and Mayor Sid are still absent.
Thank you. Moving on with the agenda, there are no appointments, so on to committee reports, Blasting Advisory Board.
Evening, everybody. So Miguel Martinez, the chair of the. Better?
Sorry,
Okay.
Mr. Chair. If you can just give us a second, because I can barely hear you.
Oh. All right, better?
Much better. Thank you.
Evening again. Miguel Martinez, Chair of the Blasting Advisory Board. What to be said that hasn't been said yet, but I guess I'll repeat some stuff and I'm going to speak off the cuff at the end, things that are evolving. Some of the initiatives and the events that we've done is we continue raising awareness for the BAB and the issue of what's happening. However, we're moving forward as we find out of other areas in the state and the magnitude of what the issue involves. Our last visit to Tallahassee, we were advised of other areas, including north of Orlando and in Fort Myers area, with identical issues that we're experiencing. So the intent is then to continue to expand upon the information that's being divulged and hopefully create a better network across the state to find a common solution for the issue. So we're reaching out to other parts of the state that are negatively impacted on this. We had a presentation by a professor out of UM. He has the ability to measure via satellite of the strata movement of our buildings through seismic energy. This is disturbing at a minimum, that he can measure our buildings shifting by inches, not and even millimeters for that matter, but he's measuring 7/8 of an inch, our structures. And it explains a lot why the damage that we're experiencing and what we're having. But it also should be scary to everybody, knowing that our structures are being compromised. And this is actually being measured now. It's not a hypothesis or science. This is the actual physical measurements. So with that, our future project considerations that we're looking at to continue lobbying Tallahassee as we've done. The last session that we went was beyond successful in the level of the lobbying that we did. The issue is no longer a non-issue or non-known event in Tallahassee. They know about us. They know what's going on, and the questions that are being asked were very proper. We need to continue to support State Rep Fabricio, who's pushing forward legislation to help control the issue and the blasting, and including moving forward the Miami-Dade pilot program, which is the actual data science that is needed to properly regulate the issue. We're looking forward now to presenting to the Miami-Dade Commission. I know we spoke about this a year ago, but now with everything that has evolved and the changes, that I think is the right time to do so. We're also looking at getting more literature to be able to printed, to be dispersed across the town, which is what I wanted to get into. Makes a good transition. For phone calls I received this past week that personally to me were very disturbing. And there were numerous residents of the town calling me, or I was asked to call them because they weren't even aware that we exist, the BAB exists. They are not aware that the town is actually creating an initiative to support and create I don't want to say a cure, but a fix, if you will, to the issue, a resolution where we can have an amicable solution and coexist with this needed entity. The fact is that this entity is watching us closely. We are under a microscope. Every move that we do, they're now responding, which also tells me that we're making movement. We're scaring them. And the fact is, we shouldn't have to be fearful of any of each other at all. We should be working together. We should work together to find an amicable solution to coexist, we need each other. It's the bottom line. So we're asking that we have further support. We need to escalate what's happening. I'm being confirmed of concrete debonding, which is the structural degradation of our structural integrity. And the only thing we need is an element that contributes to a catastrophic collapse. I mean, we're talking to the extent of the water problem in what was the name of that town? The contamination of the water supply. Huh? Similar to Eric Brockovich, but it's Flint, Michigan. We're at that level that we're approaching, and the only thing we need is an element that will help destroy our properties. We're seeing it already in the apartment complex off Miami Gardens. This weekend I was at a barbecue in Riviera Isles. The conversation came up. Everywhere I go is the same. And I took a tour of the houses, the neighboring houses, including the host property. He was floored because he never knew what he was looking at. He didn't recognize it. And the neighboring properties having damage that are step cracks, which typically happen at the bottom of a wall at the foundation location, is at the second story. And it's the swaying of the house. The same exact damage is having in Satori. Houses that are 3 years old. Obviously, Riviera is an older property. Same damage that we see in PSN, all the surrounding areas. It's creating a timeline. And as the damage occurs and continues, we could see what's coming next. It's nothing good.
we need to prevent this. This is a preventable, this is a man-made occurrence, and we need to put an end to this, our collateral damage to the profits of a company, of an industry. This has to stop. We're going to see something that's not pleasant, and it's giving me nightmares, quite frankly. So, thank you.
I can just add, good evening, everyone. One of the things we need the most from you guys personally, not just from the town, but from you personally as a council member, as the leaders of town, is your help with getting the word out. Your help with, when we have events, getting those events out. We had the event with the University of Miami professors. It was fairly well attended, but if you notice, the people attending, a lot of them don't even live in Miami Lakes. They live in PSN, they live in Miramar. They come here to Miami Lakes to get help about blasting because, I mean, basically we are the town that is trying to do something about it. I don't see anyone else doing as much. But we need your help, not just through the town and through the town staff, but personally as well, and making sure when we have events and when we hopefully get our budget approved and get the literature out there, that we can help educate the residents here, because the room shouldn't be filled with PSN and Miramar residents. It should be also filled with Miami Lakes residents. So we hope to achieve that soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you. Any questions from the council?
Just a quick statement. Today's 1:30 blast was out of control. I mean, it sounded like, I mean, it was out of control. That can't be under the limits, man. So is there, how long does it take for us to get this blast?
They're submitting about every 15 days, what you got to consider. It takes to process the reports. But I can assure you they're blasting below legal limits. I can assure you that.
Well, that tells you that the legal limits are way too high. And, you know, I just, again, cannot believe that our representatives are not seeing the problem. I know our representatives down here are, and with your help, are really trying to get them to empathize with us, but it's not happening.
Correct.
So it's, as far as I'm concerned, and I know everybody on the board will support you 100%. So whatever you guys need in that aspect of it.
They blasted yesterday and today, or just today? There was one that was.
It was 1:30 today. I remember I was like, what is going?
They blasted twice today. The second one was a good one.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yesterday they blasted as well. I was interviewing a potential staff member from my office, and we went silent. And she lives in Pembroke Pines, and she says that was a blast. I said, "You're aware of this?" She says, "I used to live in PSN."
Yeah.
Yes.
I was in the Dominican Republic about 4 years ago, sitting at dinner, and it was like one of the blasts here. And all of us at the table, we were used to it because we live in Miami Lakes, and everybody else in the restaurant got really nervous. It was a 4-something earthquake on the Richter scale. I mean, that's not 7, but it was a real number.
The issue is not the level of a single blast, which is what they measure, and the reports that the studies that they use to base this legality on. The issue is the repetitive action of this, and that doesn't take into account, and that is the big matter. Thank you, Chairman. Councilman Fernandez.
Question to the chair. The amount that you're requesting for the literature, do you have that amount already, or is that something you're going to bring next meeting?
For the what? I'm sorry.
For the literature you want to distribute.
In our proposed budget, it's included in there. So hopefully we can get some approvals happen.
But for next year's budget.
For what we submitted. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Councilwoman Rano.
Thank you, Councilmember Collazo. Chairman Martinez, I wanted to bring to your attention, I believe that you're familiar with the building where I have my office. It's on the corner of 82nd Avenue and Miami Lakes Drive, across from the CVS. They are refinishing the building, and the building apparently was full of cracks. So they have trenched out all of these cracks with a little, I guess, chipping hammer.
Right.
The entire building, they've pretty much defaced the entire building, and they are now going to restucco the building. Those cracks, they're being addressed as if they're superficial cracks,
Right.
but they could be more structural damaging cracks.
What you're describing is called spalling.
Okay.
However, spalling occurs on Oceanside,
And what happens is the salt air that's in the air penetrates the concrete that's porous and attacks the rebar. The rebar then rusts, and has a larger volume than the steel and pops the concrete out. That's spalling. We don't live by the ocean. So what is happening to the concrete and steel? It's called debonding. And that is the weakening of the structure. It is exactly what I'm stating.
So that I wanted
That's
to
it.
bring it to your attention. If you have the opportunity to pass by that building, it hasn't been re-stuccoed yet. There's only a little section of it that I'd love for you guys to take some photographs to kind of see the damage. The blasts that we feel there are intense to the point that things fall off the wall.
Yeah.
We're on the second floor. And I agree with Councilmember Garcia, the blasting has become more intense. I don't know how we can't quantify it, right? And they might still be blasting below the allowable levels, but they are definitely more intense. There's a roar associated with the blast now that you can kind of hear as well. So I
Right.
just wanted to see if you guys would be able to take the opportunity to drive over there and take
I'll
a few
take a
photographs.
look.
It might be beneficial for it.
Banco Popular also approached me, the same exact questions and issues. And their building's brand new. The addition of them, the annex. Yes, that is the problem. That's it right there.
When I saw it happening, I remembered all of the meetings that we've been to, and I'm like, that's exactly what he's been talking about.
Yeah,
All right.
so if you're weakening a structure and we're designed for wind speeds, now it's 145 miles an hour wind speed. PSN, as an example, the older code is 120 miles an hour. I've been confirmed the reduction of strength by 20%. So if you reduce your wind speed by 20%, that's what you're building theoretically, what's sustained.
What it can tolerate now.
So if we have 150 mile or 145 mile an hour wind, it's not going to hold it. It scares me.
It is scary. It is
Scary.
very scary. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. On to the, no special presentations, so on to the consent calendar.
I'll move it.
I'll
The-
second it.
There's a motion, there's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 12B, which is the quasi judicial item. It's a public hearing.
The attorney.
I
Yeah.
have it as 12B.
I'm sorry?
Yep.
Which item?
12B, the quasi judicial
Okay.
ordinance is second hearing.
All right,
I moved it up in order of business.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of information, this item, it probably should have been on the agenda as two separate items, but in this one item, there's two things contained. It's the second reading of the ordinance as well as a resolution. So you should, at the end of this, should end up taking two separate votes, one on the second reading of the ordinance, one on the resolution.
So
Okay.
we'll call it 12BI and 12BII.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, please, please be advised that the following items on the board's agenda are quasi judicial in nature. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish to be either cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. Persons representing organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Any person presenting documents to the board should provide the town clerk with a minimum of 10 copies. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedure may be obtained from the clerk. Okay, an ordinance of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, amending the official zoning map to rezone a 89,514 square foot property located east side of Northwest 67th Avenue and just south of the Palmetto Expressway from the RUTH Residential Townhouse District to the BU2 Special Business District, providing findings, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for direction to the administrative official, providing for repeal of laws in conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Then the next item, they're going to do two votes. Like the manager said, the next item is a resolution of the town council, the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, pertaining to a request in accordance with section 13-304H of the town of Miami Lakes Land Development Code for a site plan approval as provided at Exhibit A. for the property located at 6699 Windmill Gate Road, as more particularly described at Exhibit B, bearing folio number 32, 2013, 004, 2420, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing findings, providing for violation of conditions, providing for appeal, and providing for an effective date.
And good evening, council. May I remind you that these are two completely separate items. The second one requires the approval of the first, so you have to hear the rezoning first. And then the site plan is completely separate and independent items. We're hearing them in a row because obviously it's the same set of drawings and the same set of I combined the staff report into one, so all the documents are entered into both. But the two things, the two items must be voted separately, and they are completely independent. The first item is the rezoning. We are having the second hearing. We already heard it on first reading. The planning board also heard it on as a local planning agency. What you need to consider in this is that the action that you would be taking in here is to bring this existing non-conforming use into conformity with the rezoning. So you're not rezoning in order to give more value to the property or to allow any other use that is not already there. You're basically allowing for this use to now come into conformance with the underlying zoning, which is not the situation they have right now. And if you have any questions, I know that the applicant is here and eager to answer any questions. Oh, sorry, any questions you have. They have voluntarily proffered the covenant that we discussed in the first hearing. I believe Mr. Coviella has been preparing it and has been dealing with their attorneys to come to an agreement. I believe you have it in front of you. Yeah. Yes. The final form of the covenant, securing use of the, I'm just gonna let him explain it because.
Wait, really quick, do I have to swear everybody?
Which one
in
is
first,
quasi judicial? Is it the resolution or the site plan approval or the rezoning?
They're both quasi judicial. So I think that the way that Ms. Alonso presented it, have this item first on the quasi judicial be heard, allow for public comments, and then open up the item on the resolution, and then you can allow for.
So the
public comments on
clerk
that.
needs to swear in. I guess you could do one swearing in for
She can do one swearing in for
Yeah.
both items, yes.
whoever's going to testify on the item.
Yes,
Yeah.
please stand up and raise your right hand. Do you swear to say the truth and only the truth, so help you God? You may be seated.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. What you have before you is a covenant. This was something you all requested at the last council meeting. And I have to say, it's really been wonderful working both with the director, Mr. Roy, and Mr. Dennis Kerbel. We've gone back and forth. At one point, they didn't really have a good understanding as to why we wanted this. We were able to speak with them. They were able to come to meeting of the minds as to why this is so important for the town for us to have this covenant. The one provision it states there is that it is to be a library. And if it is not a library, then it would be converted to a passive park. And of course, the county would flip the bill for that and for the conversion. So again, I just want to thank them both. Again, it's been a pleasure working on that, and that's what you have before you. And what you're voting on now, we have to allow for public comments. No, is the zoning change.
If there are any public comments for this item, please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record. There's also individuals online, but I don't see anybody unmuting themselves.
Thank you. On to the applicant.
Hey, good evening, and thank you, Councilman Colasso, for taking us out of order. Appreciate that. And yes, as Lorenzo said and Susanna said, at our first reading, we discussed the restrictive covenant. We've worked through it on both the ordinance and the site plan. I believe at this point that we're in compliance with the various site plan requirements of both the village, the town. And I think we're in pretty good shape. We're really excited about this project. It's a great opportunity to improve, modernize, and expand our library. I think it's going to provide great programs and services for your residents. And we respectfully request your approval of this tonight. And thank you for your support. And we're glad to answer any questions. We do have our architectural team here from Elm Arch in case you wanted a presentation on the project, but we're also happy not to provide if you would like to move on. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Councilman.
So first off, I'd like to thank Councilman Collazo for starting the dialogue and starting the discussion that led to them proffering this restrictive covenant. That being said, I move to approve the zoning ordinance.
I'll second it.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any further discussion from the council members? Just what type of feedback did you receive when you had, and first of all, I being sensitive to that neighborhood that's right behind the library, Windmill Gate, I appreciate you guys extending the invitation for those residents, and I understand you had some of those residents attend. I really haven't heard a lot of feedback from the meeting. Can you provide some feedback of what was said during that meeting or what their concerns were?
Yeah, overall, I found that their feedback was very positive related to the project. I think most everyone liked the design. There were some comments in terms of the west-facing side. We have a little bit of an outdoor area that's shown on the renderings that, I think some of the residents there thought we should maybe revisit and consider maybe enclosing that. And we're going to take another look at that. But there are some square footage limits that would trigger other things if we enclose that. But overall, I felt like they really liked the way that we laid it out. There were some comments on the furniture and some suggestions for other furniture that could be considered, which is something we'll certainly revisit. And another comment was on the landscaping. And they wanted to make sure that we had very lush landscaping, and our architectural team walked through the landscape plan as well. And I think this is going to be a much improved, not only on the interior, but also on the exterior, when you look at the views from the different angles that people look at the library from, whether you're in Windmill Gate Townhomes or whether you're on Ludlam Road. So we think this is going to be quite an improvement to the town of Miami Lakes. And we hope that that everyone gets to enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Yes, Councilman.
Could you speak to a little bit about, how it's designed for handicapable residents, also residents who are, blind or deaf, have different issues? Is it, I know you guys follow all the ADA requirements and all that. Is there sections in the library for just for the entrance? And I saw a little bit of that, but I didn't, if you speak a little bit about what you're offering when it comes to that.
I will, and I might need some help from our architectural team on some of the specific things as well. But just to start off, of course, all of our libraries are completely ADA accessible, whether you're entering the building, and as well as all of our amenities inside the building. And that would include, at the service counter, we need to have a ADA accessible height desk in addition to a regular height desk. We have computers that are screen readable in terms of ADA compliance. Miami-Dade Public Library is also certified by the University of Miami NSU CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities. Over 900 of our librarians have been trained in how to interact with sensory-friendly, people of all ages. So we do provide sensory-friendly programming. And anything else you can help me out? Thank you, Eric. Sorry, no problem. Introduce yourself.
Hi, Eric Myers. Like all new projects, everything will be ADA accessible from the point that you drive into the facility. The parking actually is going to be upgraded, so there's better access from the parking space with curb ramps to get in. For the visually impaired, we're adding tactile warnings on the surface, so someone with a cane will detect if they're approaching the asphalt area. Entrance into the facility are going to be automatic doors, so there's no need to grasp. It's easier to get in. We're replacing all the fixtures in the restrooms with new ADA compliant fixtures. So wherever you go in the facility, whether it's the pull on the doors, whether it's improved lighting because we know for all visual impairment, it's not pure blind, but it's difficult seeing. So we're improving the lighting, we're improving the floor finishes for somebody that's in a wheelchair for accessibility moving around. So really across the board, any disability that someone might have, there's great improvement in what we're doing in the facility.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further questions for the applicant? My only comments are, thank you for working with us. As I told you, this covenant really goes a long way to just help us reaffirm what we wanted to do, which is always keep that space, a public library, and not a mixed use project in the future, so to speak. So we appreciate you working with us and putting those assurances in place. With that being entered in this, I can fully support the item. And willing to take a vote on that? No. Thank you.
On the ordinance in second reading, Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Diegues.
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
The ordinance in second reading passes.
Thank you, council.
Thank you. On to the next item, the site plan.
I'll move the resolution.
Do we need the attorney to reread or are we bundling it all together?
No, I read the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a motion,
Second.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, there you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to ordinances in first reading. The first item had a public comment that wanted to speak on the item prior to it being read.
Yes.
I believe it was Hope Reynolds.
Yes,
It's
Mr.
it's an ordinance, got to be read into the record.
Okay,
Yeah.
ordinances in first reading,
11A,
11A.
an ordinance of the Town Council of Town of Miami Lakes, Florida, approving adopting a non-ad valorem assessment role for special taxing districts, approving adopting and ratifying special assessment district rates for special taxing districts, including but not limited to security guard and multipurpose maintenance, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Ms. Reynolds, you're able to give public comment now. You have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Esperanza Reynolds, Lake Glen Ellen. We no longer attend Section 1 meetings because why bother if no one is listening? On May 24th, meeting video surfaced many issues of concern, so consider dissolving the district. We ask how many property owners of record responsible for paying the assessment are fed up with not allowing us to vote to determine if we want the original ordinance to continue to transform the intensity of our obligation. One comment received from a property owner, he has not looked up the requirements to install these abominations, but speed bumps do not meet the requirements to be a minimum distance from driveways. Therefore, those installed on Dundee Terrace are in violation of the code. Most drivers avoid driving in the street bumps direction and go around the exit through Dumbarton and Dundee. To force 841 property owners, family, friends, visitors, contractors, fire rescue, ambulances, and police, not to mention Miami-Dade County trucks and Miami Lake staff to damage our cars is outrageous. Another comment received, the biggest issue when speed bumps were installed at Celebration Point is that 10 to 20 vehicles, including fire, emergency, EMS, health vans, Conviva, Care Plus, enter the grounds per month and are forced to almost stop entirely, which lengthens the time to get to a health emergency or fire. Feedback from the fire department at Celebration Point forced property owners to keep the bumps to a minimum and space them far apart to allow a speedier arrival to the unit building in question. Miami Lake's article quoted Public Works Director Carlos Acosta, who said that the county prohibits bumps in locations next to a fire hydrant, horizontal curb, and driveway, or 50 feet close to an intersection. Another comment, a committee is not the appropriate way to determine what 841 property owners are willing to put up with, where or how many speed bumps should be placed on a public street. The committee in this case has only one of 7 members from our subdivision, and neither the one nor the 7 can legally hinder his right of passage. The town council is being derelict in its duties when it codifies recommendations from a committee without its own due diligence determination of the need, wisdom, and appropriateness. Why would we want to be forced to damage our cars by having no other alternative but to enter and exit our community through the guard gate? We petitioned and voted for a guard gate to keep thieves out, not to investigate our neighbors. And now we learn that access cards provide intelligence. The clicker system records every time a unique clicker is used. So what? You have allowed a system that is intrusive in our personal lives with hardly any incidents in our area. Some property owners pay more for the special taxing district now than the portion payable to Miami Lakes. Dissolving the special taxing district reopens Glenny Terrace, removes these issues from our daily lives, saving inordinate amount of time required to oversee these issues. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any additional public comments on this item?
I don't see anybody else unmuting themselves, so I do not believe so.
I'll move it.
There's a motion.
I'll second it.
There's a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, Councilwoman Morano.
Thank you, Councilmember Collazo. Upon reviewing the two sections that are raising their assessments for this evening, I wanted to go over the items that they are considering that causes the increase. And I haven't had an opportunity to review the meeting, the video of the meeting, so I haven't been able to see the discussion. However, before I start my comments, and I know that Jeremy is with us as well. Do you know offhand how many homes are in Miami Lakes Section 1? 841. So Miami Lakes Section 1 is proposing increases for the following, and please bear with me because I printed this out and it's very, very small. Holiday decor, $6,000. The speed bumps, $4,000. Transponders, which I believe were recently purchased. I received many phone calls about the new transponders, $1,000. They're increasing their repairs or their maintenance contract for the gates and then renovations to the guardhouse. They're proposing an increase of $8 per unit. And if you calculate it at 841 units, that's basically the holiday decor. That being said, in reviewing this, and I've received several phone calls from individuals that live in Miami Lakes Section 1. The purpose of these guard gates or these neighborhood service districts is not for decor. It's not for beautification. There's a specific ordinance. There's a reason why these guard gates are in place. And I can definitely appreciate that the residents or the board members that are serving on the neighborhood service district board would like to see more. They would like to see enhancements. I know that the guard gate was enhanced. The building was enhanced last year. It was painted. There was landscaping that was installed. There's an amount here for quarterly flower changes quarterly. I appreciate that they want to beautify that area and that they want to do more. I cannot support higher assessments to install holiday decor and to, continue to refurbish the guardhouse and whatnot. The companies that work out of there, the security companies, they should be responsible for any damages that occur inside that guardhouse. It's those guards that are creating the damages. So I don't understand why we are going to continue to refurbish this, and I definitely cannot support holiday decor. I don't know where these conversations came from, and I would have wanted to visit those videos so that I can understand. Sometimes in conversation, right, like boards get excited and start to brainstorm. So I'm definitely not suggesting by any means that there's anything wrong happening, but I do think that as council members, we need to curtail this. This is not the service that is supposed to be provided by the gate. We've installed LPRs, we've installed new arms, we've installed landscaping, we have painted and refurbished the gate. And now this year we have another $33,000 of additional. So this is the reason why the assessment is going up. I can't support an increase in the assessment for this particular reason. So on that, for the other section that is the other neighborhood service district that is raising their rates as well is Royal Oaks East. They're raising it to the tune of $40. I went through the budget and I couldn't see anything that other than the LPRs, which have a yearly licensing. It's $6,500 per year per camera. So other than that, that I didn't support originally, but it's installed now. I didn't see anything on this. I believe that the manager commented that the increase in Royal Oaks Section 1 was due to increases in the contracts for security.
Correct.
And for maintenance. So there are no bells and whistles here.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just a contract rate on security, extermination and janitorial.
Okay. So I don't know how to bifurcate this. I know that this is being presented to us all together.
And first reading as well. Yeah.
Right. It is in first reading, but I'm not going to support this today, and I'd like to remove.
Yeah, you know what? Let me just point something out, council member. Maybe this will help give you some guidance. Remember, all we're doing here, this is like Jeremy said, this is first reading, right? So it's obviously the next reading is when a lot of the changes would normally happen but obviously you can.
Right,
it's
well,
your
I
item,
just
so
want
you
to,
can- you
right, I
can
want to
make-
catch it. I want to give you an opportunity before.
Right. So this is like, for instance, the comments that were made about the speed hump or even the holiday decorations. None of those, this is not the decision to install speed humps. This is just the decision to allocate funds in the event that speed humps are done or they're proper and they're approved and so forth.
Mhm.
Same goes with the holiday decorations, right? Ultimately, the advisory council is just that, advisory. This council is the one that makes final decisions on not only how to fund these special taxing or neighborhood service districts, but then also on items like that. So remember, all this is the funding for it. It's not the decision to install the speed humps or to do any of these things.
Right,
So-
but I don't want to approve the funding of it.
Got it. Okay. So then obviously then like any other item, you can make line item amendments. You can amend one piece without amending the other piece.
Councilman Rana, what I was going to suggest was to, in order to put us in a posture to move this item forward, was an amendment reducing the budgeted amount to $340.98 instead of the adding the $8 that would have gone to whatever add-on items that you were concerned
Correct.
about.
I still think that there's I still think that we as a council, and I know that before second reading, we can look into these things, but we have to pay more attention to what these boards are doing. Because they're presenting budgets to us, and I don't think that we're actually diving deeply. I wouldn't have done it had I not received phone calls from residents in this particular section that did take a look at it. Usually we take the recommendations from the neighborhood service district and we move forward with it. So yes, absolutely. I will move to keep their budget as it was last year. But I'd also like, before second reading, I'd like us to look at some of these numbers and see if there's any savings possibilities for that section.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the Miami Lake Section 1 amount to $340.98. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion, there's a second. Any discussion? All those in favor
Aye.
of the amendment passes. And I'm going to ask the finance staff, Melissa, if you can come on up, because there have, when you first were onboarded, this was one of the things that we worked on extensively to kind of cap the amount of surpluses that they can have, to kind of not piggy bank. And these are some of the things, like, if you have enough money, you'll start creating. So there are some safeguards already in place to keep that from happening. Is if you can review that, because I know not all of us have served through that same time period.
Hi, good evening. This council approved in fiscal year 2020 that every district would have to have a 10% reserve of their budget. And each of these budgets before you have that implemented. Is that what you were asking, sir?
Correct. And they could not bank reserves in excess of, and I forgot the other.
I don't believe that the resolution specifically speaks that they cannot have more, but that the requirement was to be 10%.
So you can accrue funds over time in excess of 10
My understanding,
cumulatively.
my understanding of what the resol, I don't have the resol in front of me, but I believe it doesn't specifically speak to anything in addition, but that just the requirement is to have 10.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman.
Yes.
I also do remember that I think it was your item actually that put a cap on the total amount of reserves that were there. So I would encourage staff to go back and check it again, because I'm pretty sure that was your item to cap the total amount of reserves that they can keep with them as a cost saving measure to the residents.
It was the intent. And now I'd have to go back with staff to see how it's being actually transitioned because of the amassing of funds, right? So we saw some special taxing districts that had well in excess of funds in reserve, and then they would have it use it or lose it type of mentality, like, oh, we don't want to lose this money. You know, we got to find something for it. And that's what we wanted to avoid. So I remember in some years, we actually rebated back to special taxing districts, those unused or those surplus funds. And that was the other caveat of that 10% reserve.
So at every meeting that we have, that is always a suggestion that I provide to the board, and I let them know you have this amount that we can allocate to your infrastructure, or you can vote to return those funds to the community. And in this case, none of the boards voted for that.
Right, and I think that gets into the perspective that Councilwoman Morano is, well, we have the money, let's find holiday decorations, or let's do things with these monies that maybe are not part of what actually a special taxing district is designed to do. And I think that's her concern. So I think putting guardrails there to kind of refocus when these advisory boards, and I think Councilwoman Morano, you're very insightful and very wise in doing that, because sometimes that's where we come in. They're just advisory boards. So if they're proposing an expenditure that's not proper or not with the guidelines of the the neighborhood service district, it's upon us, I guess, to rein that back in. So I appreciate you bringing that forward and bringing it. I guess we start with this item and making sure that we're at $340.98.
I will make those adjustments for second reading.
Yes, thank you so much.
And just to kind of wrap up on my line of questioning beyond that, I'm very glad to see that we're finally moving forward with the right track, wrong track surveys. I was wondering if you could provide the council with an overview of where that process stands right now, as far as the feedback we've gotten from each of the districts. Is it still ongoing? Because I'm not sure if it's still out on the field or if we're done.
So the way we've implemented the right track, wrong track is mailers before, essentially before the budget meetings start to take place. We send out one mailer with the survey QR link on there, and then residents can go ahead and every property owner is mailed their survey. As of right now, actually, I sent not too long ago an update, so I can bring up those updates. But we do have, this has probably been the most feedback we've had this year. Let me try to find that. Give you a quick synopsis of it. Loch Lomond, we received 12 responses with 92% satisfactory, above average, and or excellent rating. Royal Oaks, 35 responses. That's both districts, section 1 and east, with a 66% satisfactory, above average, and or excellent. The Lakes have only received 2 responses, so we'll probably push them out again to try to get a little bit more feedback. However, in public comments, there seem to be moving positively. And Miami Lakes section 1 with 79 responses with a 72% satisfactory, above average, and or excellent rating. So the right track, wrong track is starting to get more, a little more steam. And we're going to continue making sure that we're pushing that out, and any other ways that we can get that out, we will be doing so. But so far the mailers have helped. And we look to keep using that feedback moving forward.
Have you instituted a cutoff in terms of when responses may be received, or?
As of right now, we have not. All the survey link boxes are still open. And essentially we would cut it out probably a month before we want to release the next link or the next year and gauge. We're looking at gauging fiscal years essentially.
Excellent. Thank you. Nothing
Jeremy,
further on my part.
Thank you. Jeremy, these, the links went out only in mailers, or did they go out any other?
Mailers, the same way that the other districts have gone out. And typically the lakes have actually yielded a good amount of turnout to the meetings when we use the mailers as an advisory that there is an upcoming meeting. So it's a little weird to see that they haven't responded.
Just, I mean, anecdotally, I live in Miami Lakes section 1. I didn't get the mailer. So I think it'd be, I think it'd be interesting to, maybe try another means of
Another route.
communication as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Garcia.
Thank you, Jeremy. I guess the question, and going on the vein of the why are we doing these surveys, is 841 homes in section 1. Are they participating? Is their voice being heard? I know why you're doing the survey. What is the minimum response rate that you're looking for to make?
We haven't pre-established the minimum. We're still just getting off the grounds with this right track, wrong track, but we haven't established what.
Yeah.
As far as feedback on directly to the surveys?
Well, just, the whole thing about, decorations, things like that. I'm sure the majority of homeowners are not aware that that's what their money's being used for. Are we, what can we do to improve? First of all, getting more participation in these meetings, so they're aware of what, what they're proposing to spend. And again, as the Councilman Fernandez said, if he didn't get one, maybe what else can we do to make sure there's as much participation? At least let them know this is what they're proposing for your budget. There's going to be an increase in your assessment. And if the majority of the 841 are not in favor, maybe we have to rethink that. But I don't think right now we're getting that kind of feedback. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
One of the questions we also asked on the survey was, what's the best way that we can inform you about these meetings and or budget discussions? And the majority was the A-frame signs that we actually put out. So we can look to leverage the A-frame signs and put up a survey there, but also that's going to then create a traffic issue for everyone stopping, trying to get a picture. But we can look at ways to leverage some other avenues to get a little more feedback. For the most part, we try to utilize the mailers and then word of mouth, and then all of our publicly noted meetings that goes to the clerk's office, and then we put out on our community calendars and so forth.
Yeah, I think if they able to participate and seeing what's happening, we might get a different, I'm sure that maybe those decorations will be like, that's not my priority, right? So, yeah, getting their feedback is the most important thing to me, I think, so we can make the proper decision up here. But thanks, man.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The item carries as amended. Thank you. On to.
Council member, I'm
Yes.
sorry to be the fly in the ointment, but it's an ordinance. It has to be roll call, sorry.
Yes. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Diegas.
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
The ordinance in first reading passes.
Thank you. And thank you for the correction, Mr. Manager. On to item 11B, Bird Sanctuary.
An ordinance of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, amending chapter 42, amending title to read trees and birds, creating section 42-13 of the town of Miami Lakes Code of Ordinance titled Bird Sanctuary, providing for inclusion into the code, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll
Aye.
call.
Oh, I'm sorry, roll
yes.
call. I paused, man. I gave you the opportunity. I thought we were gonna go there.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Diegas.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano,
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes,
The ordinance in first reading passes.
thank you. On to the next item, golf carts. Ordinances in first reading.
An ordinance of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, amending chapter 39, article 3, golf carts, section 39-52, 39-53, 39-57, and 39-58 of the town of Miami Lakes Code of Ordinance, providing for inclusion into the code, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the town code, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
Second.
There's a motion and there's a second. Any discussion?
Yes, just briefly, yes, yeah, it's first reading. During my briefing with the manager, I suggested that if this was to pass, or even maybe regardless of whether or not this passes, due to the changes at the state level, it may behoove us to at least mail the residents that have the decals kind of like a legislative update, like these are the new rules, just to keep them abreast. I would hate for them to feel that, we moved the goalpost on them, the rules changed and nobody told them. So
Right.
I just wanted to
We'll
introduce
put
that.
something like that together.
Okay. Thank you.
For those that are watching, would the deputy town attorney provide just a little bit of feedback on what it is that we're changing? Because it's very minimal.
Yes.
That way, if anybody's watching.
It's very minimal, but I think it's very important. And I think
Yes.
it does help the town in making sure that golf carts are operated safely. The legislature made a real significant change in requiring the age. It used to be 14, now it's 18 years of age. And all those with 18 years of age or older must have proof that they have a driver's license, an identification on them. If you're not 18 years of age and you are riding, you have to show that you have a driver's license. And if you don't have a driver's license, then you can be cited. So that does give our police officers another tool in their toolkit to be able to regulate and make sure that only those that are riding golf carts that are of age are doing so, and they're doing so in a manner that is safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Madam Clerk, can you please call a roll?
Councilmember Collazo,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano.
Yes.
The ordinance in first reading passes.
Thank you, Council. On to item 12A, line of credit, ordinance is second reading.
An ordinance of the town of Miami Lakes, Florida, authorizing a loan in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $20 million of a non-revolving line of credit for the purpose of providing liquidity financing for the project described herein, authorizing the issuance of a non-revolving credit note to evidence and secure the loan, providing that details, terms, and other matters relating to the issuance of the non-revolving credit note shall be established or provided for in a supplemental note resolution, supplemental note resolution and a line of credit agreement, providing for a covenant to budget and appropriate non-ad valorem revenues as more specifically described in the supplemental note resolution, authorizing the town manager to proceed to develop necessary documents to award and issue the non-revolving credit note and to determine the specific details of the line of credit agreement and non-revolving credit note within the parameters set forth in the supplemental note resolution, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
There's a motion.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
Roll call.
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano,
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
The ordinance in second reading passes.
Do we have to, it's a public hearing. Do we have to make that statement? Anybody, members from the public wishing to speak on the item?
If anybody on
Yeah,
Zoom would
second
like to
reading,
speak,
so-
please unmute yourself.
So this item is a public hearing.
Yes.
Anybody wishing to speak on this item? Hearing none? Should we call roll again, Madam Clerk?
Do we, Councilmember Collazo, just as a point of clarification, to the deputy attorney, is this something that we would be voting on along?
You have another item that's coming right before you, which is the resolution approving
That's
the line
one
of
that comes
credit.
after.
And if you wish to make that amendment that
Yes,
you and I discussed, which is now before all of you.
in the
you can do-
following,
Yes.
thank you.
Hearing no public comments, can you call a roll again
Yep.
for the item?
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ruano,
Yes.
Councilmember Dieguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Collazo.
Yes.
The ordinance in second reading passes.
Thank you, Council. On to items, in, item 13A, resolution for the line of credit.
Motion.
Any motions?
And yeah, I'm gonna read it.
He has to read it, right?
I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just getting to it. Yeah. It's long. A resolution of Town of Miami Lakes, Florida with attachments authorizing a loan in the aggregate principal amount of not exceeding $20 million in the form of a taxable non-revolving line of credit from Bank United NA, the lender, for the purpose of providing liquidity financing in response to disaster and emergency occurrences only as described herein, authorizing the issuance of a non-revolving credit note to evidence loans made under the note, under the non-revolving line of credit, making findings and determinations as to said non-revolving credit note, accepting the lender's proposal to provide the non-revolving line of credit and purchase the non-revolving credit note, providing for a covenant to budget and appropriate non-ad valorem revenues to secure the town's obligations under the non-revolving line of credit and the non-revolving credit note, providing for the method of execution of the non-revolving credit note, authorizing the use of the proceeds of such non-revolving credit note, approving the form of a line of credit agreement with the lender in connection with the non-revolving credit note, and authorizing the execution and delivery of such line of credit agreement and non-revolving credit note, authorizing other required actions in connections therewith, and providing for an effective date.
I'll move it.
There's a motion. There's a second. Any discussion? Councilwoman Morano, you recognize.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Collazo. The deputy town attorney just gave everyone a copy of this resolution. In our briefing, I discussed the concern from residents and from myself as well with regards to the reimbursement of funds after an emergency, reimbursement of funds that we receive sometimes from the federal government or from the state. So I wanted to put something in writing that mandated that those reimbursed funds would be allocated to the sinking fund that is required for repayment of this credit line. So that is what is before you. If you read section 2, it reads, the town shall direct all federal and or state dollars recovered as a result of a natural or man-made emergency to be prioritized toward funding the emergency line of credit sinking fund to ensure that payment of the emergency line of credit is done expeditiously.
I'll move it.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but the deputy attorney.
Yeah, no,
has-
I want to put everybody in the right posture. There's two items before you. The first one is the line of credit. The second one is the councilwoman is offering an amendment that as a piggyback resolution to that resolution. So there's going to be two different resolutions, right? You would be adopting that language. But so you'll have one resolution and the amendment is to adopt a second resolution.
Yeah,
So I
but
just
it's still
want to put
part of an
everybody in the-
amendment to the main motion, right?
Correct. It would be an amendment to the main motion. So you would.
So it's not this resolution. She would be sponsoring a separate resolution.
So it's that resolution, I just want to make sure everybody understands what they're voting on. The resolution that the councilwoman just proffered is a resolution you're voting on, which is the amendment to the main motion. And then you'll vote on the resolution, which is the line of credit.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney, for putting us in the proper posture. So this is an amendment to the main motion. It was first and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment for the main motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The amendment carries. Back to the main motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before you vote on the main motion, during the budget amendment, this council allocated all the funding for all of the expenses that go towards opening this line of credit from the carry forward amendment. The only thing that was not from the carry forward amendment were the legal fees for our attorney. The bond counsel for the other side were allocated. So we had always contemplated paying those from our legal reserves, our litigation account. We just failed to put it, not failed. We didn't put it in here. So I'd like for an amendment to be made to allocate the $30,000 for our legal counsel to be transferred from legal reserves to the appropriate line so we can pay for it.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second it.
Motion and a second to the second amendment to the main motion, which is disclosure that the $30,000 will come from our legal reserves. Discussion, Councilman
Just
Morano.
for clarification, what is the total cost of securing this credit line, including the monies that we had already allocated and the ones that we're allocating tonight?
Kay, do you have the amounts from the carry forward amendment? 50,000.
And we carried forward $50,000 and we're allocating an additional $30,000 tonight?
The 50,000 were for outside expenses, people who aren't ours. This 30, and actually, it's $5,000 less than it was 3 years ago, whenever we took out the original line. This number here, the legal expenses for our legal counsel is the same as it was 3 years ago.
Okay, but the total cost to secure this credit line is $80,000? $77,500.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion on this item? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. On to new business items. Afternoon traffic detail, Councilman Dieguez.
You're missing a.
Mr. Chair.
vote on the main motion.
Yeah, now you got to vote on the main motion.
Oh,
As amended.
Okay, thank you. Voting on the main motion as amended twice. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And I just want to add for the record that Vice Mayor Alvarez has joined the video.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Welcome. We're on your item.
Thank you.
We're on your item, Mr. Vice Mayor. Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding. On to Councilman Dieguez, new business item, on to Councilman Dieguez item.
Awesome. Simply put, staff told me that in order to do a Survey Monkey to kind of gauge whether they want us to continue funding the afternoon traffic detail that we initiated a pilot program on, they said that that I should bring it before the council to get approval. So again, simply, this is just authorization for them to put together a survey monkey that then could be distributed by email, et cetera, asking them if they feel that we should continue funding this pilot program and make it a permanent part of our budget. Simply that. That's a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'm going to note that as an aye and affirmation. Yep. Motion carries. Next item, item C, civil penalties for catalytic converter robberies. Councilman Garcia, you're recognized.
Thank you. The reason I'm bringing this item up is due to the alarming rise in catalytic converter robberies in Miami-Dade County. What I'm proposing, if the town could look into working with our interim major to impose large civil penalties of $1,000 per converter. So if someone is found in the town, either a business or someone is arrested for that, if we can find a way to also add civil penalties, get the word out to try to discourage this crime in the town of Miami Lakes through civil penalties. And I also want to add an amendment to this, if you permit me, to, any items that are found, if possible, from robbing a car or a home, if we can add additional civil penalties, if it's possible, allowable, to discourage crime in the town. Something additional penalties that we can do that and get the word out that, it's not acceptable here in the town of Miami Lakes.
So I will second for discussion if that's a motion, and I have questions of the attorney.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a motion by Councilman Garcia and seconded by Councilman Fernandez.
So Deputy
Discussion.
Town Attorney, the operative question is this allowable? What do you opine?
Okay, the issue is, and Councilman Garcia and I discussed this a little bit, is that where the state already has, right, crime, it's a crime to steal a catalytic converter. We can't impose a separate fine that is punitive in nature. Doing so and subjecting someone to that kind of procedure is akin to double jeopardy. And there's several opinions that opine that way. We can have our own if the state doesn't, enforce, and we can enforce our own ordinance. But that's tricky in nature based on the fact that we don't have a real operating municipal court, let's say, to impose those civil penalties. The fact that someone else may have a catalytic converter doesn't really give us, or a stolen catalytic converter, it doesn't really give us the right to go ahead and sue them. We don't have any standing to do that. This is a little different from the item, Councilman, that you brought up, which was those that deface town property. If you deface town property, us as a government, you as a head of government, right, have the right to go to court and file a lawsuit because they've damaged property that is public property, and that's your responsibility, and that's your right to go ahead and file suit. So what can we do? And this is something that Councilman Garcia and I spoke about, is that there is no harm in adopting an ordinance that discourages the stealing of catalytic converters or any other item on town. We have other ordinances in the books that are made to dissuade folks. One of them that you have is with regards to paraphernalia, drug paraphernalia in front of stores, and that's something that your predecessors adopted. So can you do something like that? Could you have an educative piece? Yes, certainly. There's nothing wrong with that or illegal about that. Does that answer your question, Councilman?
It definitely does, and I think it would be my intent for you to conduct some further research into how we can do exactly what you just said.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the item?
I have a discussion that's
Yes.
not about
Councilman
this,
Garcia.
it's about kind of like specific item about crime in Miami Lakes. If I could just make a quick statement. There's been some incidents recently on Main Street with crime, and I was approached by a business owner there. And today with Lieutenant and I spoke to the manager today with Lieutenant Gonzalez, Officer Soto, myself, met with the Grahams to try to come up with a short-term solution to this problem. And the problem is we're having minors coming in and they're assaulting people, throwing rocks at them. They're damaging property. They're, screaming at the police officers, calling them obscenities. There's a couple incidents there. So we came up with some short-term and long-term solutions to see if we can solve this. And I wanted to discuss it with the council and see if perhaps Lieutenant Gonzalez can speak a little bit about what we have planned for the weekend. If that's something is that something that's allowable for him to come up real quick and say something, or should I do that as a point of personal privilege?
No, I think you can talk. It has to be germane to the item.
Well, yes.
And we're talking about civil penalties for catalytic converters. Maybe he can come up during the police report.
Could it?
That-
Police report's fine.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and then you
Yes.
could talk about what you did with them and
Thank you so much.
yeah, just wanted to make sure that we're staying
That's fine.
in the proper posture. Any further discussion on the item? No, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move
yes.
to waive section 7.2 of the special rules of order.
I'll
Thank
second.
you. Motion to waive.
I'll second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I thank you, and I appreciate the graciousness of my colleagues. I brought this item forward. It's a very simple item. During my commute to work, the city of Hialeah has taken on the issue to raise mental awareness to mental health causes. Number one issue that's right now in mental health is suicide awareness. There is a new 988 number, just like you would dial 911. It's a suicide hotline, and they have decided to wrap some of their public works vehicles in 988. This has been at zero cost to the city. They've partnered with other mental health organizations, including Southern Winds Hospital in the city of Hialeah, but I've reached out to other organizations like Thriving Mind South Florida, who'd be interested in partnering with us to do an awareness campaign of that sort. So really, the motion would be to direct staff to work with mental health organizations in unison to raise awareness for 988 and other mental health resources. And it would be a cost neutral item because we'd find sponsorships through partners that are raising awareness for that cause.
Second.
All in favor? No, any discussion? I'm sorry. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Next to the item, Councilwoman Morano, stormwater projects relief for negatively impact residents.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Collazo. Some time ago, this council made a very bold move to pull a loan and help some of our residents with flooding in their neighborhoods. On top of the fact that we made that bold move, we were also blessed with some federal funding that increased our budget, and we are well underway. We have broken ground on many of these projects, and we're well underway bringing relief to our residents. But unfortunately, some of these projects have had some negative impacts as well. And I'm not sure if my colleagues have received phone calls regarding these projects and regarding elevation situations and streets that no longer kind of abut to the approaches and sidewalks that have been lifted or not and whatnot. So to not bore you with all of the details of this item, I received several phone calls, and I've been trying to help out some residents and bring some relief to them. And one thing that came to my attention in having conversations with a particular resident is that when residents have to redo their approaches, which in most cases, the town has done it on the budget of these projects, right? I know the Public Works Department and the projects manager has worked really, really hard visiting these residents home by home and trying to, situation by situation, they're all different. If you go there and you speak to one driveway is not the same as the other, and they have, some approaches have been poured entirely new, some approaches have been, retrofitted, right, to meet the street. But there are some residents that will inevitably have to either redo their approaches on their own because their approaches are made out of materials that we cannot fix, stamped concrete, or people that have, marble or travertine or some sort of covering on their approaches, or even individuals that have had to redo their driveways because now the street is new and the approach is new and the sidewalk is new, and now the driveway is lower than everything else. So it was brought to my attention that these individuals that come to town hall, to the building department, have to pull a permit to correct what they need to fix, and they have to pay a permit fee like anyone else that pulls a permit in the town. In an effort to bring some to alleviate some of the burden. And I know that it's not a large amount, considering redoing your entire driveway or repouring your approach considering the permit fee, it's not a huge amount. I would like to, out of a gesture of kindness and consideration to these residents, I would like to find a mechanism by which we can reimburse them or somehow cover the cost of the permit. There's not much more that we can do, and we cannot go around pouring new driveways or purchasing building materials. But the permit fee, which is a nominal fee, is something that perhaps this council could consider waiving. Originally, I requested something like that, and there are state statutes and other things that prohibit us from going that route. But I would like to direct staff and direct our legal team to see if with Public Works, if there's any way that we can find a way, perhaps creating a fund as part of this stormwater system repair, if we can create a fund that we can utilize to reimburse some. I don't know how many people will have to pour new driveways or new approaches, but I think it's the least that we can do when we create a hardship for them that wasn't there before. The idea behind these projects, the spirit behind this was to improve their quality of life. I know that some of these projects, I've seen pictures of some of these projects. Unfortunately, the vendors, you know, they don't meet the expectations that we have. And, you know, they definitely do not leave things the way that they found them. You know, when they pour the asphalt, it's sloppy. When they redo sod, it's messy. When they go through, they break sprinklers. And so there's a lot of inconveniences that are occurring. I think that the least that we can do on our end is try to find a mechanism where we can alleviate some of the distress that's caused to some residents. I don't know how many there are. I can't quantify that. I tried to look through emails. I tried to request emails regarding complaints. But in a conversation with the manager, it's more, the complaints are more on a one-to-one, face-to-face when the project manager is on site. So they're not very much documented. I don't have a way of knowing, quantifying how many there are. Or I also don't have a way of knowing at this moment if there will be a vehicle by which we can do this, but I would at least like to direct staff to try.
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that motion. I hear the item second in discussion. When I was being briefed by the attorney, the way that they found the way that a solution could be managed, I believe it was through the deputy town attorney, was maybe creating an incentive program. So when we redo these streets, there's some type of incentive program, if you're going to go ahead and redo the sidewalk, that could rebate that amount or could alleviate that amount. That's something equal to the amount of the permit. That's what I remember.
Yeah, what I would recommend and request is that if this item passes, give us an opportunity, let staff go back, we'll explore, we'll work with the Public Works, we'll work with our legal counsel, we'll look and see what avenues, you know, there are for any kind of relief for any of these situations.
Got it. Don't tie your hands at all.
I'm learning.
Any other comments or remarks?
Just that I have received
Councilor
calls
Garcia.
as well, and if we're redoing the road and it's causing that, you know, it's causing those issues for them, any relief we can give them, absolutely, I'm for. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yes, Councilman Fernandez.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to chime in, I actually redid my driveway last year, not because there were any drainage improvements on my block. I just did it for aesthetics. And part of the process that I remember is it's two permits, right? So it's a permit, it's a Public Works permit for the approach, and then it's a building permit for the portion from the sidewalk of the driveway. And my understanding is that only we're a lot more restricted by state statute on the building permit side, but
That's
we have
correct.
a lot more flexibility on the Public Works side.
Yeah,
So
it is different. The statutes that govern building permits and all of that is different than those that govern public work permits and so forth.
correct. So in that spirit, maybe there's a way to, you know, waive the one that we can waive and then, you know, rebate the one that we
Right.
can't.
We'll go
or
back and beat
incentivize.
all that up and then we'll
Correct.
we'll come back to you with a recommendation and something that may be palatable to the council.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. All those in favor?
Wait,
Oh,
Aye.
I'm sorry,
Oh.
Councilman Dieguez.
Yeah, so through the chair to,
Nothing.
through the chair to my colleague here. Obviously, we do not have a chance to discuss this prior to this meeting, you know, to avoid violating sunshine. After having my briefing with the manager, my question was simply, are we opening up a Pandora's box here Let's say, for example, if somebody alleges that our tree or a tree on our swale is creating damage to their property, are we opening up the door then to going ahead and encouraging others to try and say, well, you did it in this case for your drainage project, you should do it also for the trees. I just wanted to know how you would respond to that, because that was a question that I had leaving my briefing with the manager.
I think it's a very valid question. And I have in under previous management had that discussion as well. Because our trees do damage private property and the residents are required to repair their property that's being damaged by something that is owned by the town. So those conversations have come up. And that is if we're talking about permits and we're talking about a fee that we're imposing, I'm open to discussing that as well. If someone has to redo their approach because the oak tree that's in the swale has been overgrown and has destroyed their approach, and we can help them out by mitigating the fee itself, I would be open to doing that as well.
Yeah, we'll what if it from top to bottom and take all those potential, well, what if this, what if that? We'll take all that into consideration before we come back to you with a recommendation.
Yeah, I'm going to vote to advance it for now, but obviously I'll keep, thinking about that by the time it comes back to us.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, Councilman Alvarez. And Alvarez, when we're on discussion, please feel free to jump in on any of these items. I know sometimes we know that you're there. We never forget that you're there, but if you feel free, please jump in and let me know and I'll recognize you. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Councilman Collazo. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. On to the next item, town drones. Councilman Garcia, you
That
recognize.
sounds ominous, but it's not that scary. So I was surprised to learn that we don't ourselves have a drone to properly survey upcoming projects or current projects. Our communications department doesn't have one to provide transparency on these projects that are happening or at events with the residents. So I want to ask my colleagues if it's possible to look into investing into a drone that could be shared by all departments, equally, or piggyback on a county contract, find a grant, or actually, I'm looking into seeing if we get someone to donate this drone for us. We can train one of our, maybe somebody from the communications department, because we are next to the airport and there are issues. But it would help out a lot in transparency in our events. Maybe, I don't know if the police department has one of their own, but if they don't, they can use it to survey crowd sizes, whatever they need to use it for. And if we can get that donated or get a grant or get it for low cost, I think it would bring another tool for our staff to do their prospective work for the town. So that's why I just wanted to open for discussion. You guys.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll go do the homework. We'll explore if there are any opportunities to have external funding. We'll see, what are the different kinds of drones, the big ones, the small ones, what are the costs? What are the any FAA certification requirements, training requirement? We'll bring all that, we'll package it together and we'll come back and we'll give you the bullet points and then we'll get direction from you from there.
Thank you, sir.
Don't forget insurance.
Yes.
Especially liability insurance.
Excellent point, Councilmember Fernandez. Moving on to item 14G. This is sponsored by myself.
Did we vote on?
Oh, we haven't voted.
No.
There you go. I'm new at this. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to item 14G, sponsored by myself. This item arose when I was driving down the street, seeing the banner installation. And I realized that obviously we are installing banners for students, for graduates. We're installing military banners in honor of service members. I believe that we installed our mental health awareness banners as well. There was a lot of ruckus on the street, and I realized that we used to do this in the evening hours. So I brought it to the attention of the town manager, and not only this item, but there's a lot of other things that we've been doing that we're doing in the daytime hours that to me, we should be doing in the evening hours. So after presenting this item that was specifically for banner installation, my motion would be to request through the manager. The response that I received was that it's more costly to install these banners in the evening hours, because obviously the crew that comes out is going to charge a surplus to be out in the evening. I think that perhaps we can look at other vendors or try a different route. I really do prefer to have all of the banners installed in the evening and kind of wake up in the morning and drive through and see the town that is, you know, decorated in honor of all of these special individuals in the community. I'd like to direct the manager to revisit this evening installation of our banners, and also furthering this item to also try to revisit street sweeping in the evenings, pressure cleaning in the evenings. I walk frequently during the town, and the street sweeping is very, very disruptive for people on bicycles and people that are walking. It's definitely raises a lot of dust cloud. And I've received several complaints from people when we do the pressure washing that there's bleach involved and the vehicles are, you know, driving up and down the street. These services have always been performed at night. Traditionally, they were performed at night. I know that post-COVID, the world is a little different, but I'd like to move to direct the manager to try cost permitting to revisit all of these services to be done in the evening hours.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just a couple questions. The street sweeping is, I know it's done certain times because there's more people at work, less people on the street parked. What is the best time that less people are parked? Because we were able to park on our streets, right? So does that, I've seen them go around the cars. What's, Mr. Manager, what's the more efficient way of doing it?
I mean,
Day, night?
we'll see
morning?
if Omar, I think he's in the back room there, hopefully comes in. But I believe that they try and do it during the day. That's when people are away from their homes, away from the areas, and there's less likely that they're gonna get blocked by parked cars and so forth.
But not during rush hour. Like, I
No.
understand-
Actually, even the banner installation, we don't do during rush hours. Even the
The
daytime
banner
is,
installation was during the day and it was rush hour and it was the kids were getting out of school
well,
and the trucks were in the
school is
middle of the
different
street.
than,
Well,
yeah.
it,
'Cause
school is,
some of them
school is
start
worse than
out-
rush hour.
School, some of them start out at 1:00. So
The street sweeping that I experienced, which was not a pleasant experience, was on a weekend and it was probably midday. So it wasn't, it was on a weekend.
On the weekend, really?
It was on a weekend. I don't recall if it was a Saturday or Sunday, but it was on a weekend and it was by Commerce and it was midday.
Okay.
street sweeping, what's the protocol or in the scheduling for the street sweeping with our contractor?
Good evening, Public Works Director Omar Santos. So the protocol is the regular lane closure hours, which is 9 to 4. And on weekends,
You said 9 to 4
9 to 4
during the day?
during the day. And that's utility companies, ourselves, for some of our projects, we're able to do it longer depending on the nature of the project, if it's an emergency. But most lane closures and activities in the lanes are from 9 to 4.
Okay, so is there a possibility to try to schedule for these things to be done in the evening hours?
I would have to check.
Overnight.
There may be an upcharge for nighttime work.
There might be an upcharge, but
There
it
may
might be worth it.
I would have to
avoid the-
review that, but usually when it comes to the nighttime work,
Right.
there may be upcharges.
Yeah, and just one word of caution, council member. I understand where you're trying to get to and we'll work to try and accomplish that, but the pressure washing.
Mhm.
The compressor, it's loud, it's at nighttime, people complain. So while you're trying to fix one issue, you may end up causing a separate issue when somebody's trying to sleep. You do the overnight, it's midnight, they're trying to sleep, the compressor and all this noise
Understood.
buckets outside their house, or it's a double-edged sword. So, we have to consider the contra effect.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you.
Or maybe limiting even more of the work hours, 10 to 3. Like make it at a point where there is a lot less traffic out there, and try to curtail, maybe truncate it so they're not working,
We'll have to review that with the vendor just to see.
I'm just putting it out there as another opportunity that.
Right, I'd like for us to, and I definitely understand where you're coming from. I'd like for us to be more in charge of the services that we are procuring. I don't want the vendor to tell me when he can perform the service. I want to tell the vendor when I want him to perform the service. And if that vendor cannot accommodate the schedule that we would like, then we need to see another vendor.
No, understood. It's just in the current contract, that's the terms. If we change them, there has to be.
Right, we'd have to
modification.
look at, then that, I think that's what, we have to look at future, our current contract is the way it is, right?
Correct.
So if what you're directing is for us to look at that alternative for future contracts, when we let the next time that we let the contract out for street sweeping or what have you, that we say, okay, it has to be during these hours, and we do it in the evening, then we have to take under consideration, and ultimately you make budget decisions. So those contracts may be more expensive in the future for all of those items, those different services.
And I
that you
understand
provide.
that if we're under a current contract, we can't just change the rules mid-contract, but moving forward, I'd like us to be more in the driver's seat when it comes to these things.
We'll take that.
If I may, or the ability to say, you said 9 to 4, right?
Mhm.
To say, not 9, but 10 to, from 9 to 10 and 3 to 4. Schedules, you avoid the major thoroughfares that cause the most traffic, like in between, the small streets maybe, but the larger avenues, having it at 9 o'clock will cause traffic, right? Having it closer to 4 will cause traffic, or closer to school time.
Anytime during school dismissal is disruptive in the morning or in the afternoon.
So in the next
unfortunately.
contract, give us a little more leeway on what we can decide, and it could add cost. So we'd love to see how much more that would cost us. But the flexibility, I like the idea of having some flexibility in deciding when we do it or don't. So, I mean, that's a good idea too.
Councilman Fernandez.
Thank you. So the other concern that I think we should look at when we're having this conversation is safety, right? So I would imagine if we're doing lane closures at night, you have to have enhanced MOT, you have to have, lighted barricades in some areas and things like that. So there might be some additional costs with that as well. So just something to take a look at.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, Councilwoman Morano.
Sorry, Mr. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's all yours.
No, okay. No, I appreciate the the respect, but it was your item. I just wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to discuss the item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Thank you. On to reports, starting off with a monthly police report, and I believe we can start off with what Councilman Garcia wanted clarification on before you jump into the report.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Lieutenant Gonzalez and Officer Soto for meeting with me today with the Grahams. We had a business owner tell his story this weekend. Unfortunately, his wife and husband were a group of teenagers were throwing rocks. They were hit with rocks. And just over the last couple of months, there's been some incidents with teenagers, vandalizing and just not making it a safe environment for our residents. So I spoke to the manager about it. We were able to meet with the Grahams today, and we have some short-term ideas first, and we're going to discuss longer term. Could you discuss, sir, short-term, what we're going to do?
Sure. Jose Gonzalez, your town lieutenant. One of the things we discussed earlier in the meeting was adding additional officers to the Main Street area during Fridays and Saturday nights. Now we have 2, but it's a lot of coverage because, the responsibilities are the fountain area and also the courtyard in front of the movie theater. So, and we've had a larger uptick of juveniles coming to the area. So we talked to them today and requested 2 additional officers, one of them being a supervisor. So it'll be 3 officers and one sergeant. So now we'll have 2 by the fountain area and 2 over closer to the movie theater. That's the first step. We're going to do a walkthrough tomorrow because, yes, ma'am.
Is that part of our regular
No, it's
force?
an off-duty hire.
Okay, so-
It's a yes.
They're going to hire them. They're going to hire them.
Yeah, right now we have 2 off-duty officers that work Fridays from 8 to midnight. And now we're going to augment that with 2 more officers. So we'll have a total of 4 from 7 p.m. to midnight. So we're going to start a little earlier, and we'll have a total of 4 officers working on Fridays and Saturday in the Main Street area. We also have some other suggestions and ideas that we're going to try to finalize with them yet. I don't know if we want to bring it up, but we're still in planning of that.
Yeah.
Where we're going to do more of it's more to be more of a control point where, underage kids will not be allowed to enter that area. And they have the Grahams have on their property an 8 p.m. curfew, self-imposed curfew from the Grahams, from their private property with the movie theater. So we're also meeting with the movie theater to get their cooperation in, it's going to be more of like a controlled area where only adults or accompanied juveniles can enter the Main Street area. So we're working on a plan. We're going to be doing some walkthroughs tomorrow to see some points of entrance and exit. They're going to be controlled. So we just can't have whoever wants to just show up and roam and cause a mess over there.
My question is, and I apologize if you mentioned this, I was getting back to my chair, but this is what you've discussed already with the Graham family?
Yes, we had a meeting today with the Grahams. We made some security enhancements, suggestions. They were on board with it. And now we're just doing the planning phase of it.
Okay, so they're gonna be more proactive than in enforcing the curfew?
Yeah,
Is that
we're
what
gonna implementing some control entrance and exit points into the Main Street area.
And they were very open into for short-term hiring overtime officers. The towns doesn't have to, our taxpayers don't have to pay for that. And to a long-term plan to mitigate this, to make it a safe environment for the summer and going forward. So they were very open to any suggestions that Lieutenant had on that subject. So. Yeah,
Good. Okay. Just to do the crime report. In as far as stolen vehicles, we've been down for the month of May, which is good. Thefts, petty thefts, we've been down. Residential burglaries, we were down, and we had a small uptick on the vehicle burglaries for the month of May. Most of the vehicle burglaries occur are still vehicles that are being left unlocked. So they're crimes of opportunity. We did continue with the with our contact cards with the Lock It or Lose It program. We put it on the message board. So now it's on the message board there on 154th Street, reminding our motorists and our residents once they get home to do the 9 p.m. routine, lock their vehicles, lock their doors, make sure the keys, even key fobs that are being cloned. If you do have a key fob, please keep it towards the back end of your house, not by the front, because there is machinery now that clones all that, and they come up to your front door. It could pick up the signal and clone your key. And that's how a lot of cars are being stolen. We continue with the burglary details at night, and we continue with the traffic speeding enforcement.
Can you tell us a little bit as far as what you've seen results wise over the last month with those programs?
Yeah, so when we are conducting, I'm starting to give more of a report to the town on after every operation as a recap. But when we do conduct those details, we're not experiencing any crimes as far as vehicle burglaries. So either the high visibility is becoming a good deterrent, and our detectives, we're out there stopping cars, suspicious vehicles. That could be a deterrent because they could be suspicious and be here for bad, nefarious reasons, and we're kind of interjecting them before they commit any crime. So they're out there. We this past week we had one where there was a vehicle reported in the area of the ale house here that was stolen. And our detectives responded, conducted a surveillance, met with the victim, and then we were able to recover the stolen vehicle with that. So that was another attribute to that. And we continue to do the traffic details, which are great. We've been very successful on Fairway, on 87th Avenue, 67th Avenue, Miami-Lakes Drive, 82nd Avenue, all the main roads where we've had speeding complaints in the past. We're wrapping up the school details for traffic now, coming up tomorrow. It's the last day of public school, and I believe private is Friday. So our neighborhood resource officers will be now reverting more to high visibility patrols on the main avenues and bike patrol. So we're going to be directing them to that. We'll also be wrapping up our traffic details in the morning and the afternoon for the summer break, because there's a traffic lightens up a lot because people are on vacation and off from school. So we don't need to tap our officers on that. And we talked about the Main Street area, and I think that's about it. Any questions?
Well done.
Yes, Councilman Garcia.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Quick question. I know the Councilman Dieguez brought up the survey about Don't Block the Box. What are your thoughts? I've been called about, how we have those actual don't block in front of the fire station on 67th.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can do that'll help your job on people making a left, heading south, making a left onto Miami Lakes Drive from Royal Oaks on 79th Court, the different avenues, an actual box that says, that people can see that, and then you can give tickets because
Right.
they're passing the,
Right.
is that something that can be done, or what do you suggest?
So since we've made the adjustment to the lights, we've cut most of that out as far as blocking the boxes. The only problem we're having at that intersection is there's no light there. So at 79 Court, because the light now, the way we design it is we fill up that space and we cut it off. You might get one guy or two guys, like an 18-wheeler gets in there and kind of takes up like 4 car lengths, that the light is still green and some guys sneak in behind to get caught up. But we really don't have a problem with blocking the intersections at 77 at the entrance to the Palmetto. It used to be a mess, and now everything is kind of freed up there. On 77 Court, that's really opened up. I still have videos from the old days of residents sending me videos. I keep them as archives, about how traffic used to be and how bad it was. And now even 79 Avenue, when you come out of the school, we give you in the morning a nice green light onto 154th Street to flush that out. About 20 something cars come out. And then when the light turns red, we fill that up to 79 and we don't overfill it. So the cars are blocking the intersection. The only problem is that offset between 79 Court, where 79 Court doesn't have a light, but there is a light coming. It's coming hopefully sooner than later. I think its design is done. I think it's just funding with the county, and that I know Omar might be able to talk. I don't want to talk out of place, but I know that's something that we requested last year. I requested that from the county. They came and did a study. They told our officers to leave, and they wanted to look at the traffic without our officers. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we need to do that." So there's also going to be a no truck left turn going west on 74th Street to turn towards the fire station to make a left, because that little lane is so short. It's going to be between 7 and 9 that we requested that for the county once they put the light at 79 Court, because that way the truck could go to the next light and make the left there. So they're going to do that also. So those things are going to enhance, the free flow of traffic. It'll also free up the officer from being at 79 Court in the morning and in the afternoon, or we could utilize them for better things. So that's coming with the traffic. But yeah, that's the only section we have the problem. And we even added another sign. We had a do not block the box sign on the south side of the street on the sidewalk, and we had the county add one in the center median. So just in case, but it's hard to manage that. I did have an idea to do that at that intersection, but now they're going to be putting a light and crosswalks. Now they're going to have crosswalks there too. So that's part of the design that we saw. They're going to put crosswalks so you can go from the north side towards the Einstein or a bank. You'll be able to have a crosswalk there. So that'll be cool because we don't have a crosswalk there now. And that's pretty much the only traffic deficiency we have. And that's why we have our officers there.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
Since it's summer, and I know that Major Reeves was talking about the guardhouse next to Bob Graham. Residents still call me during that, they get blocked, they still can't go in. I know those discussions with the principal to allow cars earlier to go inside the property to alleviate the waiting for when people get out and come in. Is that an issue we're discussing with the school to mitigate that? I'm still getting calls during
In the app to allow them to go in to the property
or
early?
leave. Yeah,
Or leave?
they feel like they're trapped. They're trapped in there from parents parked, waiting for the gate to open so they can go in and drop off their kids.
Right. So one thing that we are doing, and I'd be more than glad to look at it, go out there and visit it next school year, is we do have our officers maintaining 79 Avenue open until the last minute. The moment that they open the gate, it's like game time. All the parents are now able to come out in the street, file in to the school, and that is just.
Could we ask them to do it earlier, perhaps, to alleviate?
Yeah. So I've had that recommendation, and I'm going to give you the con to it, because there's always like a pro look at it, but there's a con. So I'll give you the South Loop, the gate that's on the south side of that school. In the past, they would open the gate up. Now the gate, we have it down with cooperation of the school to like 5 minutes right before dismissal, opening the gate. And until the gate is open, there's nobody allowed to stage out on the street. They're looking for parking in other places, but they're not parking in the free flow of traffic.
We're just concerned that when they do park, they're going through the gate and parking past the gate. I know some residents told me that it's an issue for a long time. It's been going on for a while.
So what we've done to mitigate that is, before they used to open up the gate half hour before school started,
And the problem is the moment they open up the gate, everybody starts to file in. And now when they file in and they make it all the way to the end of the loop and the first car stops, everything that backs up, backs out into the street. And now we're waiting for 25 minutes for the school to dismiss. Where now it's only 5 minutes before instead of half hour before. And now when it opens, by the time the first car gets all the way to the end and it starts to back up, the kids are coming out and now the kids are getting in the car and the traffic starts to flow. But, you know, from beginning to end, it's only 15 minutes. From the time that the gate opens to the traffic is gone, it's 15 minutes. And what I suggest to the residents of Royal Oaks is that if you need to leave your house at that time, to go out through 82nd Avenue. There's another guardhouse, 82nd Avenue, there's no traffic at all. I mean, I know that I've gone to my kid's school, and if I go and I make a right, I go right to the school traffic. But if I continue on this road and go to the 2 blocks down, I circumvent the school traffic and I get to my house quicker. So you might have to go travel another block, but there's no traffic. So I tell them, at least you have another exit. There's 2 exits out of there. If you want to force into the school traffic at school dismissal, it's challenging, but there's also an alternate route that you could come out through 167 Terrace onto 82nd Avenue, and that's the path of least resistance, and there's no traffic whatsoever there and school dismissal. So, you know, if you need to get out, I suggest that that's the best route, because yeah, once the gate opens, the parents are all filing in, and then now it's just the school traffic like we have in every school. But the good thing is that we've mitigated the beginning to ending time to 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dieguez, I think you wanted to raise a concern no?
No, I already raised all my points.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Gonzalez. Anybody else wanted to personally, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to raise the conversation again on golf carts. I know that I brought it up to the major before. It has been brought to my attention that other municipalities do like random spot checks to educate the drivers to, you know, I know that we have the ordinance in place, and I know that we have certain parameters where there's certain requirements that we have, decals and windshields and turning signals and all sorts of little gadgets that they need to have. I see them every day driving around without that. I see them with kids in the back that are tossing and playing and whatnot. I see them with babies that are actually sitting on the lap and driving the golf cart. Is there any way that we can perhaps have an educational campaign? I know that Councilmember Garcia brought this up as well. An educational campaign that's not just a post on Facebook or something in our website, but more interactive. I know that there's other police departments in municipalities that are doing that, where they will take like a random Saturday or Sunday, and they'll be out on the street and they will stop them as they come along, and they'll remind them that they need to be registered, that they need to have certain things. They'll remind them now that the age limit for driving has changed, remind them that the driver has to be 18 years old, has to have a valid driver's license per state statute. Is there something like that that we can
Absolutely
implement at some point?
Yeah, and I think preferably would be on the weekend, because that's probably when you're going to have the most
Right, that's when they're most-
recreational usage of golf carts and low speed vehicles. So I think that would be a great idea, and I think that's something we could implement in the near
Thank
future.
you. I would appreciate that.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Great. Thank you so much for doing what you did to honor your friend, but also somebody that you serve alongside with. And I'm going to speak out of turn here. Would love to see you in that seat. And I think you'd be a great leader for our community. So thank you. so
Second.
much.
Thank you.
In favor?
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. On to Director Santos for the monthly infrastructure report.
Good evening again, Council. Omar Santos, Public Works Director. So I'll start off with our Safe Routes to School Bob Graham project. It's about to enter the construction phase. And this project will be enhancing or rebuilding some of the ramps and repainting some of the crossings from 155th to 167 Terrace along 79th Avenue. Next one that we have in the bidding phase is Northwest 146th Street or Green 2.0. This is in 146th Street between 89th and 87th. We'll be adding a shared use path and just enhancing the area overall to provide bicycle facilities. And the next two, Park West Pedestrian and Fairway Drive, those are in design. Those are just started design. So go now to the drainage projects. For the bond, I mentioned last time, we've already contracted over 54%. I just also wanted to highlight that we're hitting our targets that we had done with our projections when this program started. So something we're excited about. We like to see those numbers fall in line. In addition, we're also entering what the major portion of the construction. So you'll see in Royal Oaks, we have 2 projects. One just started near to the Northwest 83rd Place North Drainage that we're currently closing out. East of that, we just started a new project on that same road. And east of that on the western portion of that same neighborhood, we're starting the Royal Lakes First Edition Drainage Improvement Project. For ARPA, we have the 158th Street Drainage Improvement. This is north of the Miami Lakes Education Center. That is going into bidding, or it's already in the bidding process. So that will be our second ARPA project that will be entering construction very soon. The backup generator, we're still working on the environmental review of our consultant. And for the roadway maintenance activities, just we updated several of the items of just continuing our cycles of repair and maintenance of our infrastructure. And then one item that is not there, but is the underpasses. We have been in contact with FDOT maintenance staff regarding the enhancements that are being proposed. They have put us, or they have forwarded our request to the district design engineer, and we're waiting to hear back from that person to continue the conversation related to this. And if there are any questions.
Thank you, Director Santos. Any questions from the council? Councilwoman Morano or Councilman Fernandez? Rock, scissors to decide who goes. Go.
I offered, but she deferred. The first 2 projects that you mentioned that are both close to schools that are going into construction, do we anticipate construction being completed before school resumes?
Safe routes, yes. That one, we're anticipating to go very quickly since it's mainly just enhancements to ramps and painting. The 146th Street, no, that one will, we're projecting it to go into the school time. However, the MOT, the way it will be pretty much how the roadway will be configured in its final geometry, if I guess it's the right word. Yeah. So this will have in the entrances or the approaches in both directions, it will start us off in one lane, a 15-foot wide lane. And then as you move closer to the halfway point, it opens back up to the 2 lanes, and you'll either get to the stop sign at 89th Avenue or the traffic light at 87th Avenue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Morano.
Thank you. And the reason why I ceded my time is I'm not sure that you're the right person to ask this question to. I see that you have projects here for the community centers. I have a question on the air conditioner at Robert Alonzo. Is that a question for you or a question for Mr. Badgton?
Yeah.
Question for you?
Yes.
Okay. What's going on? Every time we had the awards of excellence at the end of the school year through the Education Advisory Board. It was a beautiful ceremony. Our school board member was there. We had individuals from the North region, and it was very, very, very hot.
I was made aware. So I spoke to staff, and there is an issue with the software, and they have been working to get quotes to be able to procure or replace or enhance the software that's currently not working properly.
Can we look into how many times we've repaired and replaced that particular unit? I'm not sure. I remember years ago during the first mayor's gala, it was unbearably warm. And from that moment forward, we have been either repairing or replacing or waiting on parts, or I know that COVID was involved, right? So there was a decrease in available units and whatnot, but can we look into like what it is that's actually going wrong? Because it seems like the never ending saga.
Yeah, I'll review that with my staff.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Councilman Garcia.
I don't know if it's you or the manager and his manager report. Sorry, the pressure washing of the underpass on 67th and Palmetto, is that something you were going to bring up, or he can bring
Yeah,
up?
that's what I.
He covered it and
I
I missed
kinda-
it. I
yeah,
cannot
I
believe
kind
it.
of-
I apologize.
Yeah, I put them both together, the
Okay.
154 request and the 67. So I sent the request to our FDOT maintenance contact.
But is it FLT or is it actual accounting? I mean, is
The
it,
bridge, if it's the bridge, is FDOT.
it's the underpass? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
and
we're starting with them. And if there is a line there that crosses to county jurisdiction, they'll make us aware and we'll move there. We'll move towards that. But at the moment, we're waiting. This person forwarded the request to the district design engineer
okay.
for FDOT, and we're awaiting her response so we can continue the conversation.
Listen, we've been, I mean, I understand. What's the usual turnaround time from request, in your experience to getting it done?
I don't know. I would have to check on past requests.
Yeah, council member, I think that we're going to start with a more in-depth conversation about that entire underpass. You're talking about 67th Avenue in the Palmetto?
Yeah, it's black.
Yeah.
It's black under
Yeah.
there. Yeah. It's,
We want to have a comprehensive conversation with FDOT about that. Because if you know, they have the fencing and all that, it restricts access.
Yeah.
They did, a few months back at our request, when Councilmember Dieguez brought an item up, they enhanced the landscaping. That went a long way, but it's still behind this fence. The fence is dilapidated. We want to have a comprehensive conversation with them about improving at least the south side, the side that faces our side, to improve the soot that's all accumulated there, the fencing, that whole entire area, to dramatically improve that area, similar to what we have at 154.
and that's great. That's great. However, it's been, I'm afraid it's going to be 6 months. Can't we just do it ourselves and charge them? I mean, literally just charge them for the work, ask for forgiveness instead of permission, kind of thing. Is there?
Yeah, that was my next question. Is there anything that prohibits us from just having a vendor go out and do that work for us instead of having to wait it out like we've had for all these months?
Trespassing laws.
Yeah.
They're not being responsive to it. I mean, 2 or 3 years to get something, it's just not responsive. I mean, we got to call them out. I mean, honestly, what can they do? Oh, the city, the county didn't, FDOT didn't respond, the county, so the city did it itself. I mean, it's
Well,
bad optics to
The
to-
problem with that is that the vendor is not going to want to go without authority from the landowner to do it. I mean, if it were up to me, depending on how much it is, just do it and not expect to get reimbursed. But you are trespassing and the vendor probably is not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Councilman Fernandez.
No, I
I
sorry.
think Councilman Fernandez wanted.
Yeah, so I was actually going to suggest that structured a little bit differently. So I know we have an agreement for the maintenance of the landscaping around those areas, right? And the main reason we have that right, the Palmetto and 154. The main reason that we have that agreement is we choose to maintain that area to a higher standard than what FDOT normally maintains it. And so they give us the allocation of money that they would normally expend on the maintenance, and then we control the pace and the scope of the maintenance. I think we should, as part of that discussion with FDOT, we should have a similar discussion and come up with an agreement like that, and then we can control should we want to do more maintenance than what they regularly require. And yes, the worst case scenario we pressure wash their bridge, they somehow claim that we damaged their bridge and we are on the hook to build them a new bridge. So we don't want to do it completely without permission, but I think having that conversation and setting up that agreement sets up the framework to be able to maintain it at our standards.
One suggestion, and I'm just kidding, one suggestion might be to just do it as a sign of good faith as to what we can do in the future, but I'm not necessarily suggesting that. Yeah.
Good faith, but we still bill them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Thank you, Director. Any further questions or comments from the council? Thank you so much for the report, Director
evening.
Santos. On to MLOP, Director Badjuan.
No pressure, Jeremy, but the manager says that you have to help him get under 9:15. That's his over under in tonight's meeting, so good luck.
Good evening, council. Jeremy Bagdown, Director of Parks and Recreation. Essentially, we're entering summer maintenance now. Not much going on at the park. Our leagues have ended. Right now, we just have some travel teams playing. With these closures, we'll enter just a heightened level of maintenance throughout the summer, rehab the fields and bring them back to game ready for our next fall season. Not much going on. So if there's any questions or any points of interest on MLOP,
Any discussion? I do have one comment. I'll be brief. Amazing job that your grounds crew did. There was rain, there was delays, anything that was asked of them, they went ahead and facilitated. We hosted 5 cities, all from Dade County, South Broward. We had Hollywood Hills, West Pines,
Cooper City,
Pembroke Lakes, Cooper City, all of them were happy to be here. Great flow, great event. And for any of those people that criticize the parks and criticize our parks in particular, because maybe we haven't refreshed them or refurbished them, your grounds are comparable, if not equal to those. We might not have the prettiest dugouts, but the grounds crew do a great job, and the park was highlighted by all those cities. So thank you so much for being out there and helping out.
I'll definitely pass it on to staff. I know Austin in his time has done a great job working with our grounds crew, and he's taking the bull by the horn. So I'll definitely pass on the comments.
Great. Thank you, Director. On to the next Park Pavilion. Go. Hey, I'm not slowing you down, man.
All right. So the item you have before you comes in lieu of the April 11th council meeting, where we were tasked with looking at analyzing all of our parks with the goal of identifying opportunities to add more rental pavilions. So what you have before you is a simple presentation that goes over 3 main concepts here. One is gathering the existing data on our current level of service. We look to identify, evaluate, and analyze suitable pavilions within the town boundaries. And essentially at the end of it, provide a recommendation for you how we would want to progress with looking at ways to enhance our pavilion rentability within the town. Currently, the town does have 12 pavilions, 5 which are reservation based, 7 which are first come, first serve. Of those 7, there are 2 that are actually at the youth center and pertain to the indoor rental. So right now it is tied with the indoor rental in order to go ahead and reserve or utilize those pavilions without it being first come, first serve. We took a look at the demand there at our current rentable pavilions just to see where the increased amount of frequency of rentals are, see which pavilions are being utilized the most, but not only that, seeing when the next availability is to see how hard this or how tight the demand is for certain spaces. As you can see in that, what we came across was there's availability within the next month or so, just about on every single pavilion. And on top of that, the real strain is on those weekends, right? That's where the real hard part is. But throughout the week, there are a plethora of days that our pavilions are still available for rent. And essentially the options, once we took this into consideration and we looked at what we had available and what we could do, essentially the options that we came forward with is adding new levels of service by expanding, so we can expand our current rentable inventory. Of those other 7 that are not being utilized, we can bring 3 is what we identified online for rentability. That'll allow us to have a little bit more of an options for residents that are looking to find something maybe a month out or something spontaneously and be able to bring that online immediately. The other idea is new construction. So we add a new pavilion somewhere else. And then the other side of the options we propose is basically expanding our current level of service, which would mean grabbing an existing pavilion, demolishing it, and expanding in a larger size. That comes from just looking at kind of the demand chart before that, where the larger venue, which is the 2 pavilions at Veterans Park that has the higher demand, we can look at maybe utilizing some of the existing space and just develop a similar size footprint pavilion. And that's not really adding a level of service, it's just expanding what we currently have. So out of those options that we identified, essentially the recommendation on our end would be to looking at the demand, looking at availability that is still present. We would want to first increase that rentable existing pavilions that we have. So bring those 3 pavilions, which would be 2 pavilions together at the youth center being rentable as 1 unit, And then the two pavilions at Miami Lakes Optimist Park that are one down by Field 3 and then one by Field 2. Since they are far apart and those parties can be separated with enough space and they won't intermingle with one another, going ahead and bringing that online for rentability as well. Obviously, like anything else with our athletic parks, just like we do at Royal Oaks, if we have a large scale event, a opening or closing ceremony, we go ahead and preemptively close reservations for that day, just not to create an issue for the renter or for the program holder. So we would do the same thing moving forward with the Optimus option. The second part of that is developing a marketing campaign to go ahead and highlight these new rentable locations, as well as trying to put the word out that we do have availability at other sites. We do have some other pavilions that are still available, and this might be able to draw some of that demand or that perception that we don't have rentable outdoor pavilion space and bring up those days. The next 4 weeks are available at such and such park, and kind of highlighting that on some of our social media or through our media channels. And then with that, if we continue to do these and see still demand for the need for space, we can go ahead and hold community meetings and really start to discuss and look at identifying locations and ideas for future construction, developing something new, knowing that there's going to be some pros and cons and some impacts to that. So with that, any questions? I try to run through it as quick as I could. Councilman Dieguez.
Any questions from the council? Yes, Councilwoman Morano.
The range of cost between 63 and 140, does that depend on the roof structure?
Yes, that's the size of the structure.
Thank you.
The two that are at Veterans Park now, are those of the 63 or?
Those are the 60 by 6. That's the, no, that would be the more expensive footprint.
That's
Yeah.
the one for,
The
okay.
closer to 100 and, yeah, closer
Right.
to the $150,000 mark.
Yeah, I was trying to do the math to figure out what the payback is on it. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Director, for the report.
The manager is very proud of you.
And you did not, nope, you kept Councilman Dieguez over under still intact, so he's very grateful. On to the manager's report for the reallocation of funds for the CAC.
Yeah, this is just a perfunctory item. This is to move monies from events that have already transpired to Concert on the Fairway to better fund that event. So the 5 moves that are dictated there in the memo, I'd like to have a motion to move that money from those events to the Concert on the Fairway.
I'll move the request
Second.
as stated.
There's a motion by Councilman Dieguez, a second by Councilman Fernandez. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the attorney's report.
The only report I have is what I sent to you in private. Other than that, I have nothing to say.
Wow. Wow.
I have a quick.
Oh, okay. Let's see. The over-under's on the line, Councilman Dieguez. Let's see.
In our conversations or briefing with Councilman Dieguez, this is something we're going to bring back to you later, but I think it's important that we talk about it now. There is a Senate Bill 120, which is passed. It's now the Live Local Act, and it has a real can have and will have eventually a profound impact on the town and what we can do with future developments. So with your permission, I'd like to start working on a workshop either July or August, and the clerk can work on dates with all of you for Suzanne and I to come back and workshop it with you and discuss how it impacts us and be able to have a good conversation.
Thank you.
Great. Do you need a motion to that effect? So Councilman Dieguez, are you going to state?
Sure, I will go ahead and move that the attorney come back to us in August with the report on the Live Local Act and what we can do to, be able to adapt with it and live with
Second.
it.
Great. Always quick on the gun, by the way, and you've gotten actually faster. I don't know. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you. Yeah, that's right.